see 454 out of 456 MPs voting in favor of the Women's Reservation Bill, proving that this is an idea whose time had come. Even those MPs who weren't fully deep within their hearts in support of the bill could not stand up and muster the courage to vote against. Such was the compelling power of the narrative brought forth on the Women's Reservation Bill. We look at that and more. Let's get started. Here are the headlines I'm tracking tonight. Women's Reservation Bill passed in the Lok Sabha. 454 MPs vote in favor, 2 vote against. Furious debate in the House on the Women Quota Bill. Congress and other opposition parties demand OBC reservation. Modi government calls this vote bank politics. Exclusive scoop on the Women's Quota Bill. Sources say women's reservation can be implemented before 2029. Delimitation will take South Indian states into consideration. India issues a hard-hitting travel advisory against Canada, cites politically condoned hate crimes as a cause of concern. Foreign Affairs Minister Jaishankar meets the Prime Minister to discuss Trudeau's Khalistani shocker. Canadian singer Shubh's India music tour cancelled. This after massive backlash over him sharing a distorted map of India and backing Khalistanis. The historic women. The historic Women's Reservation Bill has been passed in the Lok Sabha. It came after 8 hours of furious face-off in the Parliament before the bill was put to vote. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi and Home Minister Amit Shah crossed swords. Listen in.
I stand in support of the Women's Reservation Bill. There is one thing, in my view, that makes this bill incomplete. I would like to have seen OBC reservation included in this bill. I think it is very important that a large chunk of India's population, large chunk of India's women should have access to this reservation.
सबसे पहले ये जो महिला का बिल है इसको आप पास कीजिए, आज पास कीजिए, ये जो आपके लागू कीजिए और ये जो डिलिमिटेशन है जो आपने बोला है और ये जो सेंसस है इसकी कोई जरूरत नहीं है, 33% आप महिलाओं को सीधा दे दीजिए। ये आप बदलिए। ये जो लिस्ट है ये ओबीसी समाज का अपमान है। 90 लोग हिंदुस्तान के सेक्रेटरी हैं, उनमें से 3 लोग ओबीसी समाज के हैं, 5% बजट को कंट्रोल करते हैं।
कुछ पार्टी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण एक पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा हो सकता है। कुछ पार्टियों के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण, माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा हो सकता है। कुछ पार्टियों के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण का नारा ये चुनाव जीतने का एक हथियार हो सकता है, परंतु मेरी पार्टी और मेरे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं है। फिर से सुनिए, मेरी पार्टी और मेरे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं, मान्यता का सवाल है, मान्यता का सवाल। मान्यवर, 1/3 सीटों का रिजर्वेशन करना है तो वो सीटों कौन तय करेगा? ये जो कह रहे हैं क्यों नहीं कर देते, कौन करे? हम करें। और फिर वायनाड रिजर्व हो गया है तो आप क्या करोगे? हमको कहोगे कि भाई पॉलिटिकल कर दिया। ओवैसी साहब नहीं, अगर हैदराबाद रिजर्वेशन होगा, रिजर्व हो गया तो कहोगे कि भाई पॉलिटिकल रिजर्वेशन कर दिया। इसलिए ये बहुत अच्छा है कि ये डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन जो क्वासा जुडिशियल प्रोसीडिंग से चलता है, हर राज्य में जाकर, हर क्षेत्र में जाकर ओपन हियरिंग देकर ट्रांसपेरेंट पद्धति से इसका नीति निर्धारण करता है, वो डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन से इसका निर्धारण हो। परंतु सोशल मीडिया में कुछ लोग भूमिका बना रहे हैं कि भाई इस विधेयक को इसलिए समर्थन न करो कि इसमें डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन का है और अभी के चुनाव में नहीं होगा। कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं इसमें ओबीसी आरक्षण नहीं है, मुस्लिम आरक्षण नहीं, इसलिए समर्थन न करो। मैं अलग कहता हूं, अब समर्थन नहीं करोगे तो क्या जल्दी आरक्षण आ जाएगा? तो भी 29 के बाद आएगा। समर्थन कर दो, गारंटी हो गई, फिर जो सरकार आएगी उसमें जो बदलाव करेगी वो भी होगा। एक बार श्री गणेश तो करो, गणेश चतुर्थी के दिन ये संविधान संशोधन विधेयक आया, एक बार शुरुआत करनी चाहिए। ये जो वादा किया था वो मोदी जी ने पूरा किया है, और ये सारे जो ओबीसी का राग हड़पते हैं उनको मैं कहना चाहता हूं, आपकी पार्टियों ने कभी ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बनाया, भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री बनाया।
Earlier today, Sonia Gandhi led the Congress's charge. While she supported the Women's Reservation Bill, she demanded a caste census and an immediate rollout of the bill. She was countered by BJP MPs Nishikant Dubey and Smriti Irani. Here are some of the key highlights from the Lok Sabha debate.
मैं नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम 2023 के समर्थन में खड़ी हुई।
Mamata Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress have already walked the talk. We don't need to go on record to show this country that we support this bill.
It is one of the very few bills I think most of us would agree on.
An intense debate.
इस राष्ट्र में अपने संगठन में पहली बार महिलाओं को आरक्षण देने वाली राजनीतिक पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी बनी।
Unless we have a delimitation and census, we are not going to get it, is what I've understood from them.
Yes.
So then what is this special session? तो अभी नहीं करते तो दिसंबर में कर लेते।
Day 2 of the discussion on the Women's Reservation Bill or Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. Several opposition parties supported the proposed legislation, but they did so with conditions.
भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की तरफ मैं नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम 2023 के समर्थन में खड़ी हुई। धुएं से भरी हुई रसोई से लेकर रोशनी से जगमगाती हुई स्टेडियम तक भारत की स्त्री का सफर बहुत लंबा है, लेकिन आखिरकार उसने मंजिल को छू लिया है।
The chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party led the debate. She recalled her husband and then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi for initiating women reservation in local bodies.
खुद मेरी जिंदगी का यह बहुत मार्मिक क्षण है। पहली दफा स्थानीय निकायों में स्त्री की भागीदारी तय करने वाला संविधान संशोधन मेरे जीवन साथी राजीव गांधी जी ही लाए थे।
Subsequently, the Congress leader called for an immediate caste consensus and a sub-quota for women from underprivileged communities.
कास्ट सेंसस कराकर शेड्यूल ट्राइब, ओबीसीज की महिलाओं के आरक्षण की व्यवस्था की जाए। सरकार को इसे साकार करने के लिए भी जो कदम उठाने की जरूरत है वह उठाने ही चाहिए।
The TMC also supported women's reservation in legislative bodies. MP Mahua Moitra argued that the proposed 33% reservation must be implemented in 2024.
This is your moment to really show us all कि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है। Implement the reservation bill immediately based on today's voters list. Send 33% women to parliament. Send 33% women to parliament in 2024 from the BJP the way our party has done. Support us unreservedly.
The NCP's Supriya Sule advocated for an SC/ST OBC sub-quota for women.
That ये तो ST SC OBC का अभी मांग करेंगे, क्यों नहीं मांग करेंगे? सरकार से हम लोग ऑपोजिशन मांग नहीं करेगी तो कौन करेगा? And why not? This is a great golden opportunity on 303. दे दीजिए, nothing wrong. So why is it that we are only asking for something? बड़ा दिल करके आप ST SC OBC, let's make a constitutional amendment. It's a special session.
The DMK alleged that the government has pushed the bill without building a wider consensus.
I'd like to know what consensus was built, what discussions were held. This bill was brought shrouded in secrecy.
Union Minister Smriti Irani accused the opposition parties of attempts to create a myth around sub-quotas and taking ownership of the reservation.
यूपीए जिसकी अध्यक्षा श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी हैं, उन्होंने कहा है no seat shall be reserved for women belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes in the third general elections. 3B पढ़ें तो उन्होंने कहा, प्रस्ताव दिया, no seat shall be reserved for women in the third general election.
The minister called upon MPs across the political spectrum to wholeheartedly support the bill.
Reduce your words to paper, to speech, but speak with action and support Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam.
Women bill.
The political landscape simmers. The race to take ownership of the Women's Reservation Bill and demand sub-quotas intensifies, highlighting the complex nature of this important legislative discussion.
Through the
Bureau Report, India Today.
Guarantee Act.
Joining me at this time, senior CPIM leader Brinda Kharach. She's been amongst those who fought for decades asking for the Women's Reservation Bill to be brought forth. And also with us on this broadcast is Chavi Rajawat. She's been a sarpanch in a small village and has an experience of how Women's Reservation plays out on the ground as part of our Panchayati Raj system. We have with us representing the ruling BJP, its national spokesperson Sanju Verma. Shama Mohammed represents the Congress. We've got Dr. Sandeep Shastri, who studied census delimitation and will give us a sense of the impact this could potentially have on women's reservation and who this benefits in the 2024 elections. Brinda Karachi, I want to come across to you first. You've been amongst those who've been a key part of the women's reservation movement. You fought for this for decades, quite literally. The government is now turned that promise into reality as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned. The Rajya Sabha is up tomorrow. What do you think of this historic day when a battle that you fought for so many decades is finally nearing fruition?
Is it really turning it into a reality? From what I have read about the draft of the bill that they have presented, they have very unnecessarily linked the bill to the census and to the completion of the exercise by a delimitation commission, which is yet to be appointed. And I believe that turning this bill into a reality will take very many more years. So the opportunity that the Modi government had in 2014 to do so, the opportunity it had in 2019 to do so, it did not do so for whatever reasons it can only explain. And now to be presented with a fait accompli, bringing a bill at the fag end of their term and saying, calling it some absurd name, Nari Bandhan, what does it mean? We are here as equals. What on earth are you trying to say? Patronizing, patriarchal? So quite frankly, I'm disappointed with the way that this is being done.
The counter to what you're saying is, it's better late than never. This promise has been made for more than 2 decades. No government ever mustered the courage to actually push it through. The UPA government could have done that from 2010 to 2014, but they were dependent on the SP and the RJD. They didn't. you must certainly acknowledge, ma'am, that the government has finally pushed this through, and the Prime Minister himself has staked his political reputation on passing this bill, and his government will be judged by how soon the bill actually becomes reality. So he's actually putting himself out there, and now the women of this country will judge whether it was just a jumla or indeed a serious promise.
I think it's all linked up. As far as the UPA government is concerned, it was the joint efforts of the UPA and those who were in support of the bill at that time that we did get it passed in the Rajya Sabha. I have written about the scenes which were there as part of the passage of the bill and the kind of barriers which were put even at the last minute. But it was adopted. There was a very good chance of it being adopted in the Lok Sabha. But as usual, patriarchal forces and those opposed to the bill sabotaged it. And it's taken from 2010 to 2023. My question is why? And are we just to just be so grateful that, well, at last we have got this and better late than never? What I am saying is that this government had the opportunity to do so because it had a majority. It had a majority of those who are in support of the bill. It refused to do so. It's brought it at the fag end of its term. And now it wants women to be eternally grateful. Well, my take is no. If you're serious, as it is, you've messed up, remove that clause, delete that clause in the bill, which links women's reservation with the census and with the delimitation process.
But it's the opposition, ma'am, that's wanting to link the women's reservation bill with the caste census. They're demanding that there be OBC reservation from amongst the reservation for women, and all of this potentially only seeks to delay the process rather than getting on with what is on the table. You're wanting to set the bar higher and thereby ensuring that it doesn't actually get implemented. What do you make of what the opposition is saying?
Well, I mean, have the people who talked about OBC said that they're not going to support the bill? I mean, we can all have opinions as to how to improve the bill, how to, include more sections in the bill. That's all fine, it's part of the discussion. But have any of these parties said that they're going to oppose the bill because there is no OBC reservation? I haven't heard that in any speech. They have made suggestions, that's fine. What are the amendments which have been moved? And what's going to happen when the bill is actually voted? We'll have to look at that. But I do believe that it is important for the government to delete the clause which links the bill to the census and to the delimitation process. I think that to a great extent will ensure that the bill will be implemented as soon as possible. This way, as it is, we've lost the opportunity in the 18 Lok Sabha. Na?
Okay, I want to go across to Sanju Verma on some of the things that we heard from Brinda Karat. You're objecting starting with the name, saying Nari Vandan. This reeks of patronizing patriarchy and it's unacceptable. What is this Vandan business? She's asking. Sanju Verma, let's start from there.
No, Rahul, I'm not obliged to respond to what Brinda Karat says about the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, reeking of patriarchy, because I'm an empowered woman in more ways than one, and I think it's a befitting name. But I just have this to say. I was listening to the almost 8 hours of speeches made by both the ruling party and the opposition. What struck me was Sonia Gandhi saying, "Ye apna hai. This is our bill. This is our idea." Rahul, you know it as well as I do, that at least on 4 occasions, if not more, be it H.D. Devegowda or be it Atal Bihari Vajpayee or even the Congress for that matter in 2010, there were repeated attempts to pass the women reservation bill, but it never came to fruition. And I always say that an idea is only as good as its execution. So while the Congress, Sonia Gandhi and Jairam Ramesh can pat themselves on their back and clean till the cows come home. ये हमारा कांग्रेस का दिया हुआ idea है, which has been usurped by the BJP. The fact of the matter is, and the hard truth is, it may be difficult for some people from the opposition benches to digest as much. Who is bringing this to fruition? 454 people today voted in the Lok Sabha in favor of the women reservation bill, which is not just a two-thirds majority, mind you. It means that 83.6% of the members present and voting gave a thumping yes to the women reservation bill introduced by the Modi government on the floor of the Lok Sabha. Point number one. Point number two. Each time the Congress says that the BJP has changed its stance and suddenly it feels the need to show solidarity with the issues of women, I would like to remind them, and anyone who has an iota of knowledge in terms of political history, that in 2010, when the Congress brought this bill on the floor of the Rajya Sabha, where it was passed,
Okay.
it could not pass muster in the Lok Sabha, it was not the BJP. It was the Samajwadi Party and the RJD which actually did not support the Congress, and today the Congress is actually holding hands with the Samajwadi Party and the RJD.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, Dr. Shamika Ravi. This politics aside, this is a historic day. A day when India joins a global committee of nations which have affirmative action for women. How do you see this change and shape Indian politics from the time it actually gets implemented?
Well, Rahul, I think the time is right. This is, we waited long enough. It truly is a historic bill. And you can see there is bipartisan support for it. I mean, one can quibble about the details, but by and large, I think across party lines, you had great support for it across almost all national parties. So, this is good in the sense, I think now there is a pipeline of women leaders. A lot of those wrinkles have been ironed out. If you consider the fact that today almost half your Panchayati Raj institution elected members are women. Remember, the quota was 33, and today you have almost half
But
of them.
are you concerned that in the initial years, because this is a reservation that's to be applicable for 15 years to begin with, are you concerned that in the initial years, the women who get tickets are likely to be relatives, either wives, husbands, wives, daughters, mothers of sitting male MPs? Or is that a concern?
No, Rahul, because those are not concerns for men, and you'll see lots of men who also get tickets on account of being relatives and so on. So no, I don't think you should put that added burden. Also remember that even if tokenism, etc., as a criticism does arise, again, Panchayati Raj, if anything, it's an experiment that tells you that it could start from there. But very quickly, it does develop a pipeline of women leaders. So essentially what this bill does is it lowers the entry barriers for women, which we know is much higher than for men. And in essence, that is what it's like, a market failure of electoral system. So we are never going to see enough women if you don't have a law like this. So, it's all good. And politics aside, I think it's truly historic. We have come a little late at it. Philippines started with 33, almost 33 years behind. Right? And it has taken us some time, but I'm so glad we are here. I think the main concern, which I think the discussion ought to be around, is, are parties prepared with this kind of a party? You see, the tokenism and the kind of issues you are raising only become an issue if the political parties have not nurtured women within their party system. And I think the litmus test there becomes, if you study the constitutions of each of these parties, the national parties, and how close are they to actually meeting...
Chavira Jawat, you've actually been part of the Panchayat movement. There are those who would have concerns about the quality of women candidates and whether these are genuinely empowered women with agency deciding for themselves, or these are women who've been put up as proxies, as the term used to go, sarpanch patis. The male still has a role in the running of the sarpanch of the panchayat, even if he isn't the sarpanch. To what extent do you think those are issues which are now in the past? To what extent do you think those are issues that will remain at least in the initial years?
Well, Well, culturally, as we know, especially the northern part of India, yes, it is a very patriarchal society where the Purush Pratha is dominant. But if we look at what traditionally things were, what numbers of Purush Pradhan or Purush Pati that we saw, I think that has already reduced considerably. If I were to look at my first term in 2010 to my second term in 2015, things had already started changing with more educated women coming forth and asking for their rights, demanding that they be the ones sitting in the position of power because they're the ones who were elected. So that is already happening. And I think more so now than ever before, women are more conscious and more aware of what the challenges are, what their rights are, and the fact that there is a platform where they can speak and they will speak. Whether they are educated enough or not, that is immaterial. And that is what the beauty of today is, because everyone is touched by social media, is impacted by it, is impacted by the awareness and knowledge and information that is coming through it. And that also gives them much more confidence, because even if you cannot physically be present in front of someone else, you can use these channels to have a very effective, informed voice. And I think that is what is the tipping point in ensuring that when this does see the light of day, there will be more women who will be able to create an impact. When I became the Sarpanch first time in 2010, I do not have a political background. I had no idea what I was really walking into, but I did enter it, and I think I fared very well. I did not have a team to work with me. I did not have access to internet during my first term, but I very successfully brought about development in a village which needed it, in the hope that I can inspire more people like me across the country to do so. So if I could do it alone, anyone can. That's what I believe. And I'm very, very optimistic, and I'm hoping this comes through. It comes through sooner than what people are claiming it could. The delay, I just hope, does not happen, because the impact can be made and will be made.
Shama Mohammad, questions are being asked of the Congress for demanding caste census, for talking about OBC reservation. Now, Sonia Gandhi gave an interview when she was trying to bring the bill, which spoke about how you didn't need OBC reservation, that if you wanted to reserve a certain number of seats from that reserved quota for OBC candidates, do it. You don't need separate reservation. Now, when she's in opposition, Congress leaders are in opposition, you're asking for the same thing you thought was untenable, unrequired when you were in government.
No, even, let me explain that to you. One, today, just now, you said that they had the courage. Now, see, we also had the courage, but we did not have the numbers. 2014 manifesto of the BJP and 2019 manifesto of the BJP.
Ma'am, you aren't answering my question. My question is on caste census and my question is on OBC reservation. Yes.
I will answer it, Rahul. Just give me 1 minute and I'm going to answer.
Okay.
You're sure I'll answer your question. So what I'm saying is that they could have passed it much earlier. Number two, they could have passed in 2015, 16, 17. We wouldn't have these issues of the census, which was in 2021. Now, most important point is the delimitation. What do you mean by delimitation is in the 545 seats, they're not ready to give it to us. What's the point? In that, we need the reservation. After delimitation, the seats are going to be increased. So there's no reservation. They're just giving you some extra seats, which are new, which is coming in, and we'll get it. And that too after 2029 or maybe 35, according to Nishikant Dubey, whatever he said. So what I'm trying to say is that I was shocked. I was very happy day before, very excited. And I'm, the Prime Minister, I thought when he says something he could do, like we saw the Article 370 abolished, triple talaq abolished, GST at midnight, this also he would do. But what was the point of the special session? The question you asked about OBC, those, yes, I agree at that time, we said this, and now you have to understand 13 years have passed. Things have changed. You can see what is the difference. I think Rahul Gandhi has said something. He said that, Rahulji said that out of the 90 secretaries, only 3 are OBC. So
ma'am, because they're all from the 1990s batches, and during the 1990s, largely it was your government which was in power. It happens in a hierarchical fashion. You rise to be secretary depending on what the intake was. So that argument really reflects the inadequacies from your time in government.
Yeah, so we voted today. That was a suggestion to include. We also asked them why not do the caste census. But at the end of it, I heard Rahulji saying, please pass the bill for 24. So we had a
let me put that question to Dr. Sandeep Shastri. this idea of linking it with delimitation, I heard the Home Minister say, 29 ke baad aayega. There is a clause in the amendment about delimitation which says that 5 years after delimitation, the delimitation exercise, the first census after delimitation, the delimitation exercise begins in 2026, leading many to wonder, when will this actually get implemented? What's your best sense at this moment from what we know? Sandeep Shastri.
Rajdeep, Rahul, as per the last constitutional amendment, there would be no delimitation till 2026, and that will be based on the census we have in 2021. So as I see it, this is likely to happen at the earliest around the time the next delimitation happens.
No, which is what, 2026?
Which will be post 2026. And once this is passed by the Rajya Sabha, while it will become a legislation, it will become a legislation.
No, but the delimitation exercise itself takes at least 3 years. In the past, it's also taken 5 years.
Now, it again depends on when the government takes a call to create the Delimitation Commission. We need not create the Delimitation Commission after 2026. Post 2026, the exercise of undertaking the delimitation can begin, but then it has to begin on the basis of the 2021 census. So once the data of the 2021
but the 2021 census can only now happen realistically after the Lok Sabha elections next year, which is at least June 2024.
There is no question of this happening before the next year's Lok Sabha election. The only time it can happen, as per the existing constitutional mandate, is in 2026 after the census of 2021.
No, but delimitation takes at least 3 years. Could take 5, but at least 3. Then you're already hitting 2029. So it's touch and go by this very basic calculation, Sanju Verma, already for 2029. You know, everyone who's watching would have wanted for this to be brought with greater speed to be implemented sooner.
Okay, Rahul, I just want to make a couple of things very clear. You know, nobody seems to have spoken about this, but one very important thing which needs to be mentioned here is that way back in 2001, there was the 91st amendment to the Constitution which was passed, and the 91st amendment clearly stated that there is a freeze on increasing the number of seats in the Lok Sabha and their distribution thereof across states and union territories. I'm sure Mr. Shastri would be able to corroborate on this, but the 91st Amendment clearly says that there cannot be any increase in Lok Sabha seats prior to 2026 because of the freeze, which basically means that once the delimitation exercise is conducted post 2026 and there is a rise in the number of seats, in all probability from 545 odd to 888, which is what is being bandied about as far as the Lok Sabha goes. And for the Rajya Sabha, from 245 to 384 is the number that is being spoken of. Then we will have clarity as to how to go about then distributing seats in terms of how many to reserve for the scheduled castes, how many seats to be reserved for the scheduled tribes, and how many to be included in the general category, which would also include OBCs. Please note, which nobody seems to be discussing, even the current strength of the Lok Sabha, barring the 2 nominated seats, 543 is based on the Delimitation Commission of 2008's recommendations, wherein 412 seats of the Lok Sabha fall in the general category, 84 seats fall in the scheduled caste category, and 47 fall in the scheduled tribe category, thereby totaling up to a grand total of 543. So my limited point is, without getting into the nuances of, you know, Delimitation Act kab hoga, Delimitation Commission, when will it be set up, when will the census happen, let us not miss the woods for the trees. I just have this to say. For the Congress to wax eloquent about the rights of OBCs is a bit too rich, because don't forget that the first ever commission to give rights to OBCs was set up under the aegis of Pandit Nehru in 1953. It was famously called the Kaka Kalelkar
committee. Okay, Sandeep Shastri has his hand up. I want to go across to him. Is it the right and proper thing to have done, as the Home Minister said in Parliament, to let the census happen first, the delimitation next, and then determine which of these seats to get reserved? Because he did make an important point. For example, if Wayanad got reserved, or if Hyderabad got reserved for 2024, Shama Mohammed and the Congress and Owaisi would be up in arms saying, ye kya ho gaya? This is political partisan action. And therefore, he's saying, let it happen through a quasi-judicial process.
Rahul, no, so can I come in?
Rahul, it may be very easy to say that we should have it next year. And we are ignoring the practicalities when we say it should happen at such a great haste. Clearly, the constitutional amendment done last time says that the next exercise of delimitation will be post 2024. And I think that we will need to keep in mind. Remember, the Kuldeep Singh Commission was appointed in 2002 and it went on and did its job over a few years. So in preparation for the delimitation, whenever the 2021 census data is ready, the process of identifying or the process of taking forward the delimitation can be carried on. So I think to expect this to happen prior to the 2029 elections would be very unrealistic.
No, so one second. Just one second. Sandeep Shastri, are you saying it cannot happen before the next Lok Sabha elections, or are you also of the view that it's only likely to happen after the next Lok Sabha elections?
There is no question of it happening before the next Lok Sabha election.
Why not?
A period of 6 to 7 months would be impossible to be able to manage the whole question.
No, but they can step it up. You know, this is a government that can get things done fast if they want. Maybe they can get it ready in time for the next Lok Sabha elections. Why are you saying it's impossible?
At this stage, the type of legal finesse that a 1/3 reservation of seats for women would require, I think, is not something that can be done in a period of time which we now have available before the 2024 election.
Can I just come in, Rahul?
Just one second. Sanju Verma, do you want to respond? Because we saw Yogendra Yadav, now Sandeep Shastri. Now these, Yogendra Yadav is political now, but Sandeep Shastri is an out-and-out academic. And he's saying, on the basis of just the legal, technical finessing, doing this before even the next Lok Sabha elections looks, he says, impossible.
You know, Rahul, I don't want to be sounding overconfident or bombastic because, today is a day when even the opposition needs to be applauded a bit because all stakeholders have got together to ensure we got 454 votes in favor of the Women Reservation Bill. Having said that, as you said, I think the biggest achievement of the Modi government in the last 9.5 years is that we don't build flaky castles in the air. We actually translate ideas that prove to be unthinkable and unimaginable for erstwhile dispensations. We have brought them to fruition and executed them on the ground. And I will just give you 3 examples.
No, one second. Let me go across to Shama Mohammed. Now, Shama Mohammed, here is the thing. If the Prime Minister has now moved this bill, help pass it, his credibility is on the line. If it doesn't happen for the next elections, 2029, the women of India will ask that question and Sanju Verma will find it very difficult to answer. It may seem difficult to the likes of Sandeep Shastri, but the government needs to do what it needs to do to ensure that it happens in time for the next Lok Sabha elections. Their credibility is at stake.
Yes, so that's what I'm telling you, Rahul. You spoke about consensus, you would make a problem. Was there any consensus when Article 370 was taken off? Was there consensus in triple talaq? There was no consensus in many other things.
But I thought you were unhappy at that time. You should actually be applauding them that they're going by process and procedure.
I'm happy with the triple talaq, no denying it. But what I'm trying to say is that there was no consensus. See, this is not, Narendra Modi is not a man of consensus. So why suddenly consensus? And my only thing to Sanju Verma is, when we passed the bill in 2010, we did not put in delimitation. Why this delimitation? You're a woman. I'm saying let's not wait for a delimitation. Go ahead and
delimitation. No, one second. That's a very facile argument, Shama Mohammed.
Because we do not.
But respond to the argument the Home Minister made. What if Wayanad got reserved? No, because if it happens in an ad hoc fashion, you try and push this through before the next Lok Sabha elections. You have to decide which of those 543 seats will get reserved. What if Hyderabad or Wayanad get reserved? Then you'll say cheating ho gayi hamare saath. Then you'll accuse the government of bias.
Let it get reserved. Why not? Let it.
You're saying let it get reserved. I don't think Rahul Gandhi will be very happy with that. Rahul Gandhi may not be very happy with that if it gets reserved.
Rahul Gandhi spoke with his heart. I saw it. And I think Shamika Ravi has said a very important point. She said 50% women now in corporation and panchayat. Shamika Ravi, that is my government which passed it in 1993. And Rajiv Gandhi started it, 33% reservation for women in corporation and panchayat. We do. What we say we do, my dear.
Rahul, can I please
Okay, no, one second. I want to go to Chavi Rajawat as well. Chavi ji, as someone who's obviously tracking this process and has been a stakeholder in the electoral process at the panchayati level, are you disappointed with the fact that this is going to take so much time? The likes of Sandeep Shastri think it is tough to make it happen. For 2029, he in fact said impossible, but even if they try and make it happen, it will only happen before the next Lok Sabha election. So do you think they should have done it as is, where is, and just pushed it through?
See, any change that happens does require some thought behind it. And I'm sure when the bill was first thought of many years ago, the people then also must have thought it would be an impossible thing to take through. But we have come as far as we have in all these years. And I think due credit needs to be given to those who were behind it, as we saw the lovely photographs of people across parties coming together, all the lovely women. And as women, I think we all want this. And not just women, I think even the men who are feminists, who do believe in he for she campaigns, we all want that change to happen. And I do think, as you yourself, Rahul, stated, that with the current government, for all we know, maybe they will speed up the process. Maybe they are already in the process of getting the data that is needed, and who knows? It just may be sooner than...
Sandeep ji, that's for you. Modi ki guarantee hai now. He has to find the way, as Chavi Rajawat is suggesting. It's his credibility. People like Chavi are looking up to the Prime Minister and saying, it's now your credibility that's at stake. Find a way of proving Sandeep Shastri wrong.
When Prime Minister says he does it, he has done so many things without...
Suddenly the opposition has a lot of faith in the Prime Minister. They keep citing him. Okay, but let Sandeep Shastri respond. No, one second. Let Sandeep Shastri respond.
Rahul, there is an ideal and there is a practical. Can we, in practical terms, do this in the next 8 months is the big question, and do it in a manner
No. Forget 8 months. 8 months is too impractical. But I think 2029, if they really put their hearts and minds into it, is possible.
Because the Constitution mandates that post 2026, you can start the process of delimitation.
Sir, but there are different ways. One second. Just for the sake of an academic argument, let's assume that everything that needs to be done in the preparation for the delimitation exercise is done before 2026. Setting up the commission, determining who's there, giving them a mandate, finishing off the census exercise, publishing the census results. So let's assume starting on the... No, the census isn't done. The census needs to happen after the Lok Sabha election. But I'm saying you can speed the whole process up and ensure that it's completed before 2029. That I think if they push themselves... Abhi to aap impossible bol rahe the. Now you're saying it can happen. You've changed your mind in the course of the show.
No. I said it cannot happen for the next Lok Sabha election, I was saying. The Lok Sabha election...
You said 2029 is also impossible. Everyone who's watching will remember that you said at the beginning 2029 is also impossible.
Not for next year.
Rahul, can I please quickly come in?
Okay, I'm out of time, so you need to rush this through. Very quick final words. Sanju Verma wants to go first.
Rahul, when people say you are a Modi bhakt, you are an And bhakt, all that you guys do is say Modi hai to mumkin hai. Not only Modi hai to mumkin hai, but Modi hi aayenge 2024 mein, because people who talk about OBCs, I will just reinforce what Amit Shah said. 85 of our MPs are from the OBC category, 27% of our MLAs are OBCs, 41% of our MLCs are OBCs, and 37% of the Modi cabinet belongs to OBCs, including, people from the Dalit community. We have 11 ministers and 8 ministers from the scheduled tribe community. So when we say Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas, it is not a Jumla, Rahul Gandhi. We have walked the talk. Unfortunately, Rahul Gandhi, Mungeri Lal ke Haseen Sabke.
Shama Mohammed, final words.
Rahul, she said that there are many OBCs. So why not give OBC reservation for women?
Ma'am, you were opposing OBC reservation when you were in government. You yourself were opposing OBC reservation when you were in government. Now, just because you're sitting on the opposition benches, you think it's a great idea. That's the ultimate height of hypocrisy.
Years ago, time has passed.
What has changed? As far as the philosophy is concerned, what has changed? Ma'am, as far as the philosophy is concerned, what has changed?
Time has changed. And one last point.
No, one second.
We said something,
How does
we do
time
it.
changing change anything? What has changed between when
30
Sonia
years,
Gandhi
why-
said
why-
no? If you want to give OBC seats, in the seats that get reserved for women, ensure that 33% or even 50% are reserved for OBC women. You can do that yourself.
No, listen to me. There are times, I'll tell you why. Suppose in a state like mine, the OBC women are there, but the Nair women get it. You know, the other women get it. So the
So
OBC,
your party has to take care of that when they are allocating tickets. Madam, your party has to take care of it when seats are being allocated.
You did not even give him a decent relation. You did not allow Narasimha Rao's dead body into the AICC headquarters. And today Sonia Gandhi remembers Narasimha Rao. Congress party, when they say something,
Okay.
they do it. They got an RTI.
So I'm out of time. Okay, I'm out of time. You've heard from different sections. As a viewer who's watching at this time just reminded me that the next census is actually going to be digital. So remember, part of the time it takes to process the results once the enumeration has been completed is because previously the census was actually done on pen and paper, so you had to sit, tabulate, calculate. Now that process will happen much faster because this will be a digital census, so it will move, the paperwork will be much lesser, the processing will be much faster, and that will indeed make a difference. I think by 2029, if the will is there, the intent is there, ways can be found. From what we've heard from the government, from the Prime Minister, from the Home Minister, from others who spoke, they know that they have to make it happen before the next Lok Sabha election. Anything else is going to be a big cop-out. Nobody would like that, and that would take the whole joy and fun away from this reservation. You have to not just make the promise, but deliver on the check, not just sign a blank post-dated check for the future. You have to ensure that the check can be in cash. This is, make no mistake, a historic day in the journey of India's democracy. This special session will be remembered for what we've seen through the Lok Sabha today, what we'll see tomorrow, and you can keep tracking our coverage. We're slipping into a very quick break. When we come back, a big escalation in India-Canada diplomatic face-off. New Delhi issues a major advisory, politically condoned hate crimes cited as a cause of concern. We'll get you the details on the breakdown of ties between India and Canada coming up on the other side of a quick break.
जब ये प्रस्ताव सदन में आया तो कुछ लोगों ने कहा हमारा बिल है, कुछ लोगों ने कहा हमने चिट्ठी लिखी, कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि ये पूरा का पूरा संवैधानिक निर्माण हमारा था। आज ऐसी एक सम्मानित नेत्री ने सदन में अपना वक्तव्य रखा, लेकिन उनका मैं एक विशेष रूप से आभार व्यक्त करती हूं कि 2 विषयों पर उन्होंने ऑन रिकॉर्ड स्पष्टीकरण दिया है। हमको बार बार बतलाया जाता कि एक विशेष परिवार ने 73rd, 74th अमेंडमेंट टू द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पारित करवाया। आज मैं आभार वंदन करती हूं कि पहली बार स्पष्टता हुई इस सदन में उनके द्वारा कि ये पुण्य काम पीवी नरसिम्हा राव जी ने किया, जिनके मरणोपरांत उनके ही पार्टी के हेडक्वार्टर में उनको नमन करने का मौका नहीं दिया गया। यूपीए जिसकी अध्यक्षा श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी हैं, उन्होंने कहा है no seat shall be reserved for women belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes in the 3rd general elections। 3B पढ़ें तो उन्होंने कहा, प्रस्ताव दिया, no seat shall be reserved for women in the 3rd general election। महोदय, हम जानते हैं कि संविधान को छिन्न भिन्न करना ये कांग्रेस की पुरानी आदत है, तो क्या ये विपक्ष के नेताओं का मत है कि जो संवैधानिक प्रक्रिया इंगित है संविधान में, उसकी अवहेलना हो should we not abide by the Constitution? Is that the position taken by leaders of the opposition parties? That is my humble suggestion and submission.
You're on board the Newstrack. The India-Canada diplomatic face-off has escalated, with New Delhi issuing an advisory today. The Ministry of External Affairs has warned Indian citizens in Canada to be alert about politically condoned hate crimes. Here's the report.
The diplomatic war between India and Canada explodes. India has issued a hard-hitting advisory on hate crimes, urging Indian nationals and students in Canada to be cautious. The advisory says, and I quote, "In view of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada, all Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. Recently, threats have particularly targeted Indian diplomats and sections of the Indian community who oppose the anti-India agenda. Indian nationals are therefore advised to avoid travelling to regions and potential venues in Canada that have seen such incidents."
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing.
After his bombshell statement claiming credible allegations of a potential link between the killing of Canadian extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar and agents linked to India, Trudeau finds little support either at home or abroad. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese asked journalists to chill out.
Justin Trudeau is a friend of mine. He's a fine Prime Minister of Canada. I was pleased to engage with him at the G20. He has expressed his concerns about this on behalf of the Canadian government, and the Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong has also expressed concerns.
The US wanted Canada to complete the investigation and come up with credible evidence.
Frankly, I haven't seen any evidence to back up Justin Trudeau's allegations. That said, that doesn't mean evidence isn't there. However, the United States, through its silence, seems to imply that it is not on the same page as Ottawa.
And even after Justin Trudeau calling up the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak seeking support, UK insisted trade talks with India will continue. Visibly isolated, Justin Trudeau tried to furiously backpedal, saying his aim was not to provoke India.
We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them, and we want to work with the government of India to lay everything clear.
This after his shocking initial comment without investigations even being completed.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The opposition in Canada slammed Trudeau for making such charges without presenting credible evidence.
I think the Prime Minister needs to come clean with all the facts. We need to know all the evidence possible so that Canadians can make judgments on that. The Prime Minister hasn't provided any facts. He provided a statement, and I will just emphasize that he didn't tell me any more in private than he told Canadians in public, so we want to see more information.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi was briefed on the current Khalistan threat in Canada. India today has also learned from its sources that the Khalistani elements in Canada are planning to protest in front of the Indian High Commission on September 25th. Keeping the situation in mind, Indian diplomats have been asked to stay alert. India has also shared a list of 9 Khalistan-backed terrorist organizations. The list has been shared with Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the US and the UK. As Canada continues to stand with Khalistan extremists, the already soured diplomatic relations between the two countries have hit a new low, with India issuing advisory for its citizens to exercise utmost caution in Canada. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
India's most wanted list for Canada. Arshdeep Singh, alias Arsh Dalla, accused of masterminding the murder of a local Congress leader in Punjab's Moga on Monday. A listed terrorist belonging to the outlawed Khalistan Tiger Force carrying out his operations from Canada. Originally from Tarn Taran in Punjab, Lakhbir Singh linked to the ISI in Punjab. Named in last year's rocket attack on Mohali's intelligence building. Gangster Goldie Brar, alias Satwinder Singh, accused of orchestrating the murder of singer Sidhu Moosewala from his den in Canada. At least 12 men wanted in connection with serious crimes in India, terrorism included, have found a safe sanctuary in Canada. Many of them carrying out their nefarious activities in India remotely and with impunity. With Arvind Ojha, Bureau Report, India Today.
कि ये संशोधन विधेयक वास्तव में महिलाओं को आरक्षण देने की साफ नीयत से नहीं लाया गया है, बल्कि आने वाली विधानसभाओं तथा लोकसभा के चुनावों में देश की भोली भाली महिलाओं को ये प्रलोभन देकर व उनकी आंखों में धूल झोंककर उनका वोट हासिल करने की नीयत से ही लाया गया है। और यदि ऐसा नहीं है तो फिर हमारी पार्टी सरकार से ये भी अनुरोध करती है कि सरकार इस विधेयक में से या तो इन दोनों प्रावधानों को निकाले।
weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 37 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 28 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 31 and minimum 25 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 21 degrees. Chennai, maximum 32 and minimum 27 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 31 and minimum 23 degrees.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series, stay wild at heart. Co-presented by हर घर का हीरो ग्रीन प्लाई का E0. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com, हर family होगी insured. Co-powered by the bold look of Kohler.
नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम
स्त्रियों के योगदान को स्वीकार करने और उसके प्रति आभार व्यक्त करना का यह सबसे उचित समय।
महिलाओं को आरक्षण देने वाली राजनीतिक पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी बनी।
Give us this day our equal rights. We hold up half the sky. Give us at least a third of our earth.
हमने विधायी कार्य की शुरुआत करते हुए नारी शक्ति को सही मायनों में नमन करने का काम किया है।
454 2/3 बहुमत द्वारा पारित हुआ।
That's right, a historic moment in the life of India's parliament and democracy. The Lok Sabha, moments away from passing the women's quota bill that will bring 33% reservation in parliament, in the Lok Sabha and in assemblies across the country. But meanwhile, there's a clamor for an OBC quota within a quota. How will that all impact 2024? And the key question, when will all this be implemented? Or is it, as I've been calling it, a bit of a post-dated check? That's the question we're going to raise tonight. But as always, first, the 9 headlines at 9. History in motion in the Lok Sabha. Women's reservation bill passed by an overwhelming majority in the lower house. It will go tomorrow to the Rajya Sabha for passage. 33% reservation in assemblies and parliament on the anvil. Clamour grows for an OBC quota within the women quota as Congress and other opposition parties demand OBC reservations within the women quota bill. Amit Shah calls it vote bank politics. Home Minister claims the BJP delivered an OBC PM. The Congress, Rahul Gandhi says, give us a caste census first. No timeline clear on when the women reservation bill will be implemented. Government sources claim law can come into effect only earliest by 2029. Delimitation will take all states into consideration, could take a long time. India issues a hard-hitting travel advisory against Canada, cites politically condoned hate crimes as a cause of concern. Foreign Minister Jai Shankar meets Prime Minister to discuss Trudeau claims. Karnataka moves the Supreme Court to overturn Kaveri water release demand to Tamil Nadu, says Kaveri reservoir levels are at a low, cannot release more water.
Sunrise expected at Shiv Shakti Point on the moon surface today. ISRO gears up to re-establish communication with Chandrayaan 3's Vikram lander and Pragyan rover on September 22nd. Narendra Modi government invites US President Joe Biden to be chief guest for the Republic Day parade in 2024. It's a wipeout Wednesday on Dalal Street. Over 2 lakh crore rupees wiped out as Sensex and Nifty fall more than 1%. All sectoral indices close in the red. And ICC releases an official anthem for the upcoming ODI World Cup in October. Ranveer Singh features in the song. Official jersey for the Indian team also launched.
दम से और जोश से खिलाड़ी भिड़ेंगे, देखो और जोश से।
The big breaking news this evening, history being scripted in Parliament in front of our eyes tonight, with the Lok Sabha set to pass the Women's Reservation Bill. The amendments are being voted upon. The Women Quota Bill passed by an overwhelming majority. 454 were in favour of the original bill, 33% reservation that it promises in Parliament and assemblies. Only 2 people voted against. So the Quota Bill being passed there by an overwhelming majority. At the moment, 454 in favour of the bill, just 2 voting against it. Now, the Women Reservation Bill is being passed in the Lok Sabha with this big majority, but it comes after nearly 8 hours of a big debate in Parliament. Some of the debates were furiously combative. The Modi government ministers and the opposition crossed swords on a number of issues, including particularly that of OBC reservations. Should there be reservation for OBC women within the 33% reservation? I'll bring you the 5 big takeaways in a moment. But first, listen in to the key speakers as they faced off with each other.
मैंने ये सवाल पूछा कि ये जो 70 सेक्रेटरी हैं, 90 सेक्रेटरी हैं, ये जो हिंदुस्तान की सरकार को चलाते हैं, जो बजट को चलाते हैं, इनमें से ओबीसी कितने हैं? नरेंद्र मोदी जी प्रधानमंत्री हैं, ओबीसी के लिए काम करते हैं। मैंने ये सवाल पूछा, मैं आपको जवाब देना चाहता हूं। हिंदुस्तान के सेक्रेटरीज 90 में से सिर्फ 3 ओबीसी से हैं। और सुनिए, नहीं घबराइए मत, डरो मत, और सुनिए, ये जो सेक्रेटरीज हैं जो ओबीसी कम्युनिटी से हैं, ये हिंदुस्तान के सिर्फ 5% बजट को कंट्रोल करते हैं। दिस इज एन इंसल्ट एंड अ शेम टू द ओबीसी कम्युनिटी। कम्युनिटी का अपमान है।
हमारे साथी सांसद अभी चले गए, उन्होंने कहा देश जो लोग चलाते हैं, अब सब लोगों की अपनी अपनी समझ होती है। उन्होंने कहा कि देश जो लोग चलाते हैं उसमें सिर्फ 3 ओबीसी है। अब इनकी समझ है कि देश सेक्रेटरीज चलाते हैं, मेरी समझ है देश सरकार चलाती है। मान्यवर, संविधान की स्कीम है, देश की नीतियों का निर्धारण इस देश की कैबिनेट करती है, इस देश की सरकार करती है, इस देश की संसद करती है। और आंकड़े अगर आपको चाहिए तो मैं बता देता हूं, सुनने के लिए आप बैठे नहीं हो। भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सांसद में 29%, 85 सांसद ओबीसी कैटेगरी के हैं। कंपैरिजन करना है तो आ जाइए। और मान्यवर मंत्री भी 29 ओबीसी कैटेगरी के।
पिछले 13 वर्षों से भारतीय स्त्रियां अपनी राजनीतिक जिम्मेदारी का इंतजार कर रही हैं और अब उन्हें कुछ वर्ष और इंतज़ार करने के लिए कहा जा रहा है। कितने वर्ष? 2 वर्ष, 4 वर्ष, 6 वर्ष, 8 वर्ष? क्या इसके साथ ही कास्ट सेंसस कराकर शेड्यूल ट्राइब, ओबीसीज की महिलाओं के आरक्षण की व्यवस्था की भी जाए। सरकार को इसे साकार करने के लिए भी जो कदम उठाने की ज़रूरत है वह उठाने ही चाहिए।
यूपीए जिसकी अध्यक्षा श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी हैं, उन्होंने कहा है नो सीट शैल बी रिजर्व्ड फॉर विमेन बिलोंगिंग टू शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट, शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स इन द 3rd जनरल इलेक्शंस। आज की सरकार जब ये अधिनियम लागू होगा तब के बाद 15 वर्षों तक महिलाओं को रिजर्वेशन गारंटी करती है, मोदी की गारंटी है। लेकिन अगर कांग्रेस पार्टी का प्रस्ताव आप पढ़ें तो उनका प्रस्ताव ये था 2B और 3B में कि नो सीट शैल बी रिजर्व्ड for women and SC/STs in the 3rd general election. No seat shall be reserved for women in the 3rd general election. कांग्रेस का प्रस्ताव था कि 10 साल औरतें मेहनत करें, लेकिन 15वें साल में आपका अधिकार आपसे छीना जाएगा। आज मैं अभिनंदन करती हूं प्रधानमंत्री जी का, हमारे न्याय मंत्री का, जिन्होंने कांग्रेस की इस अभिलाषा को निराश किया।
Okay, so that's the fierce debate, and we'll have many more of the slices from the speeches of different MPs in Parliament. But I want to raise the questions that I think are critical to this debate. Will the OBC quota remain contentious? Remember, the opposition is calling for 27% or a certain percentage of seats to be reserved for OBCs within the 33%. When will this women's quota be implemented? There is no clear timeline as yet. It is to be implemented post-census and delimitation. So earliest could be 2029. Will the women's quota impact the 2024 polls that come a few months from now? I'm joined by special guest Supriya Srinath of the Congress. Shweta Shalini is spokesperson BJP. Also being joined by Dolly Verma, who is someone who works in a panchayat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dolly. You are an NGU-VU change leader. You work in a panchayat in Bihar. And I'm also joined by Reena Gupta, Aam Aadmi spokesperson. We'll be joined by many guests, including the likes of Uma Bharti, as the show goes on. Let me focus one by one on each issue. The first issue I want to take up, Supriya Srinath, is of OBC reservations. Because the Congress party, when it was in power, never called for OBC reservations. Sonia Gandhi very clearly said that you don't need OBC reservations within women's quota. If you want to give OBC women seats, please go and give them. Now Mrs. Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are saying we want an OBC quota. What has changed?
Yeah, so before I answer that direct question, I think I would first want to congratulate all the other 3 panelists who are women, and I hope we'll see many more women in Indian polity. Because as a professional myself, I thought politics was the best way to bring about change, and I think half the country's population was waiting for something like this for over 12 years after it was first passed by the Rajya Sabha. Now let's understand what has happened, and without deflecting away from your question, which I have a direct answer to, and I will come to that, I want to emphasize here, women will have to wait not up until 2029 like we thought yesterday. Women will actually have to end up waiting up until 2039. And I will tell you why. Ministers in this government, the female minister who was talking, her colleagues from Parliament have all said and have all cited Article 82 and Article 83 subsection 1 of the Constitution, which clearly says that delimitation can happen after the census of 2031, which means if census happens by 2033, there will be 1.5 to 2 years for the delimitation commission. 2034 election is gone. It's only in 39 will Indian women get the 33% reservation that they have been waiting for. So it's a long wait of 16 years. Why has the government made reservation incumbent upon delimitation and census is an idea that fails me. I don't understand why have they done that. They could have just done 33% reservation. I think things be said this. The second important point, and I think that's a point my leadership did make on the OBC quota. In 2010, when the bill was first passed by the Rajya Sabha, a lot of water has flown under the bridge, Rajdeep. Today, income inequality is staring us in the face, and the worst affected are the marginalized communities, are the OBCs, are the SCs, are the STs. And I think political stance has to reflect with the situation and the clamor from the ground. There is a huge clamor from the ground for OBC caste census. And the government just doesn't seem to.
There was, ma'am, with due regard, Supriya Srinath, with due regard, ma'am, with due regard, ma'am, with due regard, this clamour was there even 15 years ago. The fact was the Congress at that time appeared to be behind the times. Now you've recognized that OBCs matter.
No. So I think if we were behind time, then we are seeing the reality now. If there is a clamour for OBC reservation, who are we to deny them that? And I think political parties who are sensitive have to be agile and have to work with the realities on the ground. The whole COVID situation or the whole economic mismanagement or the mispolicies fired by the BJP have impacted the marginalized sections the most, OBCs included. And look at the income inequality. Look at their levels of education. Look at their levels of nutrition. Look at their levels of empowerment. It's baffling for me to believe that this government boasts of OBC MPs, but the condition of OBCs has worsened. And I think it's only fair. We have seen the writing on the wall, and the writing on the wall is that there is a clamor for caste census. People in this country want caste census. Who are we to deny them? And who are we to act as hurdles? And which is why women from the OBCs should also get reservation. It's a reality of our times.
Let me also tell our viewers that one of the realities is the Prime Minister is on OBC. This government has 29% of its ministers as OBCs. The BJP has more than 112 MPs who are OBCs. So if there's one party that has been ahead of the curve on OBCs, it is the BJP. I'm putting down some of those numbers. But Shweta Shalini, if these are the numbers, why doesn't the BJP...
You're wrong there. How are they ahead on the curve? They have not even done a caste census that was long overdue. How are they ahead on the curve?
They are ahead of the curve.
Don't make these sweeping statements.
1 minute, ma'am. They are ahead of the curve in terms of political representation for OBC.
Just because Prime Minister is OBC means all OBCs are absolved of everything. Come on, Rajdeep. What has this government done on caste census? They have now been in governance for nearly 10 years. It's a straight question we are asking.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm putting
Mr.
down...
Gandhi,
just a minute.
Just a minute.
You've been an anchor yourself.
India serve this government.
You've been an anchor yourself. Allow me to explain to the viewers why I said what I said. It's important. The OBC vote for the BJP has been very high. The Prime Minister is on OBC. 29% of the ministers in this government are OBC. More than 110 BJP MPs out of 303 are OBC. So the one thing that is very clear is the BJP has been able to build an OBC vote bank for itself. Now, Supriya Srinath says, what about the caste census? Rahul Gandhi raised the issue, Shweta Shalini, that it's all very well to have women's reservation. The Congress supports it, but the Congress says OBC reservation. And while you have OBC reservation, give us a caste census so this country knows what is the percentage of OBCs in this country. Various figures are being thrown. Why is the government reluctant to have a caste census? Women's reservation is to switch the narrative from what the opposition wants, which is a caste census, so every Indian knows which caste has how much representation, and government schemes can then be targeted at them.
Great. Rajdeep, first and foremost, big congratulations to you and your entire panel today. I'm so glad that at least Supriya ji started on this positive note of congratulating the women of the country, because yes, this special session has been indeed special for women, and you, Rajdeep, have been a big supporter of women. Your wife is an empowered woman. Having said that, I'm also sorry, I apologize on behalf of Supriya ji. She just snapped at you badly, because I understand that this irritation comes from the credit that the bill has given to BJP, because they tried, they couldn't get the support of their partners then and failed miserably.
Speak for yourself, please.
Modi ji
you don't need to apologize or say anything on my behalf.
Modi ji has done what
Supriya ji,
is
she did not intervene
unimaginable.
with you. Yeah, go ahead, Shweta.
Yes, coming to your question, Rajdeep, I think like Supriya ji, I'm sure she did not hear what Amit Bhai said. Their leader also was absent. He asked those questions and ran away. This is exactly what Congress does. So definitely she would not have heard that Amit Bhai, the Home Minister, practically said that delimitation and all the necessary census requirements will be fulfilled immediately after the elections of 2024. And hence we will, there's absolutely no stone which is going to be
so it's a
remained
post-dated check.
unturned to ensure
No, Shweta
that
Shalini,
implementation will happen in 2029.
Ma'am, just a minute. Ma'am, just a minute. No, so with due regard, it's a post-dated check.
Not 11 years. 27 years women have waited in this country for this right that they have to represent the unrepresented.
The women of this country, with due regard, ma'am, still do not know which is that election when this law will be implemented. There's still confusion. Will it be 2029? Will it be later?
Didn't you hear the Home Minister say that 2029 we will leave no stone unturned to ensure that it gets implemented? And yes, it is going to take that much amount of time.
Okay.
Can I please come in?
Yes, very quickly, yes, Supriya Srinath, respond to that. According to the Home Minister of the country, he did say that he hopes that it will be done by 2029.
So there are two things that I have to say. Firstly, don't lie through your teeth, just like your colleagues in Parliament do. Smriti Irani should have read the draft bill that was presented and passed by the Rajya Sabha before she was lying through her teeth in Parliament about SC/ST women quota expiring before 15 years. She was caught lying. You are also caught lying. Rahul Gandhi was very much there while Amit Shah ji spoke, the Home Minister. So don't lie. And you don't have to speak on my behalf and apologize and all that. Let's all talk about ourselves. We are all empowered women here. On a day like today, let's not take pot shots at each other and try and disempower people. There is one simple thing that I'm asking. From your leader Uma Bharti to multiple other OBC leaders in the BJP who have come on record and say there should be quota reservation for OBC women. Are you going to deny OBC women this opportunity? And you cannot run away with the fact just because the Prime Minister is OBC women should not have that reservation.
Can I just stop you there, Supriya, because I spoke earlier. Listen, ma'am, today is your day. I don't want to intervene with any women. I am delighted to see how so many women speak in Parliament, in my studio. You all are better communicators than men and probably make better politicians than men as well. I just want you to listen to Uma Bharti and then get Shweta Shalini, my other guest. And I want to tell you, Dolly herself is a sarpanch, a woman sarpanch from Bihar. So I want to hear her perspective as well. Just a minute. Uma Bharti, whom I spoke to earlier, I asked her, Uma ji, across the board, women are coming out in support of the women's bill. So why is it that leaders like you are suddenly once again bringing in OBC quota? Your own party is saying no need for OBC quota. Why is Uma Bharti saying you want an OBC quota now for women within this women's reservation, ma'am?
I expressed my happiness and pride when the Satra started from the new Parliament House and on Ganesh Chaturthi day, and it started with women reservation. For me, it was the moment of pride. But I never ever imagined, because I always was free and fearless and open out in public about my stand and my issue on the OBC reservation, because OBC are around more than 60% in this country, and they are the ones who are running the house, running the country, running the Parliament House and running the country, and their women should be given a separate reservation, because ST/SC reservation is a compulsion. So they will be there, it will be there in the women reservation. But other seats will go to the people. I don't know who it will go. So it is very necessary to have the OBC. If you remember in 1996, when Devgowda ji brought it first time, I am the one who stood. And I told him to take it back and come with the amendment. Then he gave it to the standing committee, and after that it kept pending. And now Prime Minister is bringing it. So I think whole country and whole world is looking at us and looking at the Prime Minister, who has so much of sympathy for the OBCs. And now this is after so much of hard work. Then OBC started believing in us, liking us. Because around 10-15 years back, OBC used to disbelieve us. They used to think there is no place for them in our party.
You want Umaji OBC quota within this reservation, but your political party should give tickets to OBC candidates. You see, my problem is the hypocrisy of parties. First of all, they don't give enough tickets to women. We have reached the stage of reservation because tickets were not given. Now you are saying give OBC women. What stops the BJP? You can give, if you are committed to OBC, all parties, give them tickets. Why do you need reservation every time?
This question is basically going against the reservation of any kind in this country.
No.
So we cannot discuss, because when the reservation was given to ST and SC, it was given after a much thought that there is a certain section of society which is deprived, and the deprived section has to come up to this certain standard, and because of that this women reservation also came. So in that ST, SC is a compulsion actually. But OBC will be totally left behind. So we cannot discuss this, that there should be reservation or there should. Then we have to have a separate platform to discuss the reservation.
The fact
I will not discuss only one particular issue on the reservation.
The fact is, Umaji, today if women are going to be given OBC reservation within women quota, then tomorrow men will say, give us also 27% OBC reservation for men in parliament. The thing is, once you start giving reservations of this kind, it will never end. Give tickets. Why do you need quota? Give women, OBC women, tickets.
See, when the debate on the reservation started, Karpuri Thakur, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia and other people like Chaudhary Charan Singh, they all were in the favor of this also. So we cannot discuss this also right now, because the reservation theory is based on the unjust, and people have to be bring on the same, they have to be brought to the same level. That is the reason. So if you say that why don't have a trust on having this, that parties will give ticket automatically to the OBCs, then they will give to the ST, SCs also. So basically, actually, we cannot challenge the theory of reservation. So when then why the reservation for the women? They can give to the women. Women have become chief minister in this party. I was chief minister, Basundara was chief minister, there was a woman defense minister, there was a woman HRD minister, there was a woman water resource minister. So why the reservation for the women? So when there is a reservation, then there has to be special provision for the ST, SC and for the OBC women. And OBC I am saying because they are the biggest section of this country and they are running the country. They are not beggars.
Shweta Shalini, and then I'll come to my other guests, respond to this. Supriya Srinath has raised that the BJP is running away. We heard BJP is running away from caste census. Uma Bharti is saying give OBCs reservation. I want clarity from you. Is the BJP willing to consider reservations within women's reservation for OBCs? This has been a long-standing demand among many parties, particularly Janta, the old Janta Parivar. All of the Hindi heartland parties want this. Are you ready to consider it? Then I'll come to my other guests.
Rajdeep, see, it's very clear. We've waited 27 years for something like this to happen. And when I say we, it is the women of the country, right? I think the first step has been achieved. And obviously, the second step is definitely going to be to look at the constitution and make the right kind of decisions regarding OBC and various other castes, because obviously, as Umaji said, they're 50% of the country today. But then, having said that, we will have to revise, we will have to look at the revision of the constitution. That has to be the second step. For that one step, should we go ahead and stop what women are getting at
so
this
you're
point
saying
of time?
This is
that
the first
question.
Step. Okay.
Ram Manohar Lohia, that Umaji was talking about, he primarily said that the most marginalized of the entire country are women in itself, and they're 50% of the voters. So today we are talking about women, and then we will move on to the next step, talking about, trying to talk about OBC women. Now, ST, because the provisions in the constitutions already exist,
Can I make a
that's
small
why
point?
ST has been considered. Now, OBC, if that provision needs to be considered, tomorrow the constitution will need to be revised. That will take a lot of time, and that is when Supriya ji, as she is putting it. And for Supriya ji, it's very simple. Did Congress have that in their bill? No, of course not. It is what it is.
Shweta Shalini, you made your point.
Partners.
Shweta Shalini, you made your point. I want Supriya Srinath to respond and then conclude this bit on OBCs, because this entire issue was raised today by Sonia Gandhi, by Rahul Gandhi. It was raised by the Hindi heartland parties that have always raised it. Is the Congress basically doing this because you are targeting the OBC vote? Every party has realized today, Mahila vote and OBC vote. ये दो हमारे साथ आ जाए तो हम चुनाव जीतते हैं. That is the reality. The reality, according to me, Supriya Shineth, is the Congress has woken up to the fact that now OBC vote is with BJP, we need it on our side. That's the reality.
So I'm quite startled you say the Hindi heartland. You think the Tamil Nadu people don't want the caste census. You think people otherwise don't want caste census in Maharashtra and other parts of the country. Everybody wants a caste census. And that is a reality that the government is running away from. We have been saying, if you don't want to do a caste census, at least make the data public of the caste census that we have done. What is your problem? What is the rider?
How is caste census linked to OBC reservation? How is caste census linked to OBC reservation, ma'am? How is it linked?
Because no, it is absolutely intrinsically linked, because OBC population of this country has been asking for a caste census, and that will give us an idea of the kind of misery that they are living under, the kind of marginalization that they have seen, the kind of women representation that they must have. I don't think there's anything wrong in asking for women's reservation in that category. I just want to make one small point for 10 seconds and then you can move on to everybody else. OBC? And the small point that I want to make is that you've had a brute majority government in 2014, a brute majority government in 2019. You waited till the end of 2023 to get a women's reservation bill going. You could have got this done in 2018. We could have had reservations. Why have you put the caveat? Why are you making women of this country wait for multiple more years before reservation for them becomes a reality? That's a simple question that nobody in the BJP has an answer to, because this is yet another political jumla. कानपुर में एक मिठाई की दुकान है, उसका नाम है ठग्गू के लड्डू. वो कहता है ऐसा कोई सगा नहीं जिसको हमने ठगा नहीं. आपने देश की आधी आबादी को ही ठग लिया. अब वो this is a carrot. It will keep dangling. God alone knows when this bill will be a reality. That's the reality of this bill.
I'll get Shweta Shalini to respond in a moment, but Reena Gupta and Dolly have waited very, very patiently. Reena Gupta, Aam Aadmi Party, does it have any issues at all with the women reservation bill as it is today? I mean, shouldn't even your party be really have given more tickets to women? The truth of the matter is that's where political parties failed, which is why we've reached this day. Reservation, in my view, not ideal.
Rajdeep, we are very happy that the women's reservation bill has finally been passed. Having said that, I feel that it is another jumla by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Imagine a young woman watching your program today, a young woman who would want to contest. She would have to wait for at least another 15 years, and we don't even know whether it's going to be more than 15 years. So if the Bharatiya Janata Party really believed in women empowerment, they should have passed the women's reservation bill as it was. 33% reservation for women without any riders, without any caveats.
No, so you're saying it should have been in the 2024 elections itself? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rajdeep. Because now it's a jumlebaji. 15 साल के बाद किसने देखा क्या होने वाला है? Why can't we have the women's reservation bill for the upcoming Lok Sabha elections? That would have been a real victory for women across party lines. You remember, Rajdeep, in 2010, when it was passed through the Rajya Sabha, women across party lines, even women of BJP, they were rejoicing. How many women are rejoicing today? Because we know the reality. We know, we have seen how Bharatiya Janata Party keeps doing jumlebaji after the other. This is again another way of doing jumlebaji with the women of this country. And the second point is, Rajdeep, the second point is, if you look at the bill, there is no system of rotation, of reservation. So what could happen is that the seats which any political party thinks are difficult to win, those could be the seats given to women. Again, women are not going to be then represented in the parliament. So these are the nuances that one has to look into if you really want women empowerment, if you really want 33% women in the
I want to make clear on the second point, ma'am. I have checked this. 1/3 of seats will be reserved for women and by rotation with a 15-year sunset clause. Over 15 years, the aim is to cover all 543 seats is what the government tells me is the intent of the bill. We can go into the details, but I want to introduce Dolly.
No, Rajdeep, that's not what it is. It says till the next delimitation.
I want to introduce Dolly Verma not as the way she's listed as an NGU, VU change leader, but as a woman sarpanch. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're from Bihar, Dolly, and you're a woman sarpanch.
Yes,
so you have a ground reality. One of the things that we believe is that women in local bodies are being dictated to by men. Sarpanch pati. The man decides what the woman will do. Often the husband of the a woman sarpanch. Is that true, or do you believe even in Bihar women अब empower हो गए हैं because of reservation?
So it's not black and white, Rajdeep. I mean, this has been a journey of empowerment. And if you say that Sarpanch Pati culture, it is not only in Bihar. I mean, it is something which is prevalent in whole India. However, even my current ongoing campaign, which is No to Sarpanch Pati culture, is about that. Having said that, it doesn't mean that reservation doesn't help. I am myself second time sitting Sarpanch in Gram Panchayat of Gaya, and I have seen my colleagues who are elected Sarpanches, who are elected Mukhia. They have resumed leadership themselves.
So you're telling me that once a woman becomes a sarpanch, even in Bihar, she's able to assert herself. You have been able to assert yourself.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, because I have that privilege, that I am educated and I have got all the opportunities. However, there are some women who didn't get so much, opportunity to study and to explore. For them also, I'm speaking on behalf that yes, this reservation in local governance has helped them not only in their family but in society. Okay. And it also give direction to the new people, to the young girl, to the youth who really want to come in politics and they want to grow in politics.
Dolly, that's excellent to hear. I want my panel to wait for a moment. I'm joined by another guest who's just come out of Parliament. Mahua Moitra spoke today in Parliament. MP of the Trinamool Congress also now joining me. Mahua Moitra, big day for women. Should we be celebrating, or are you like those who believe that you want to press the pause button because this could be a post-dated check? We don't know when it will be implemented. Do you believe 2 cheers today and 3 cheers only when the law actually is implemented?
Rajdeep, like I said, that Mamata Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress have already implemented this. The question is not of us supporting the bill and us celebrating. I think this is a question you need to ask the ruling party. They are the ones who haven't implemented this. You don't need a law to tell someone to put 33% women in parliament. We've done it without a law. You run the BJP, just do it. You don't need a law to tell you to do the right thing. You just do it.
No, one minute, Mahua Moitra. The Trinamool had 17 out of the 42 candidates in the Lok Sabha were women, 2019. Yes, well over 33%. That's almost 41%. Yes. But when it came to the assembly, out of 294, you had about 50 women who are given tickets. Now that's less than 20%. So I want to get it very clear. Do you believe that the way out should have been tickets for women rather than reservation?
Look, no, not at all. It's very clear. Why did our founding mothers, there were 15 women in the Constituent Assembly, and they all unanimously voted to not have any special reservation for women because they fundamentally believe in an India which would award women on merit. Now, unfortunately, 75 years later, we've found that that hasn't been the case. Men in India have simply not agreed to give women an equal share of the sky and half the earth as they should. So failing that, when you don't have chief ministers like Mamata Banerjee, when you've obviously got leadership like the BJP that cannot break out of their patriarchal hegemony, in that case, what you need is a law.
No, one minute. Why? No, 1 minute. 1 minute. No, ma'am, let's be clear. On patriarchal, the patriarchy exists across all parties. Yes, the Trinamool Congress led by a woman has shown the way, conceded. Yes. But the truth of the matter, Mahua Moitra, is that almost every party has over the years not given enough tickets to women.
There are two things. Please let me finish. Don't confuse the issue. There are two issues. One is, do you support women's reservation? That's a stupid question to even ask the Trinamool Congress, but of course we do. We've done it before anywhere else. We support it. We are living proof that it can be done and you don't need a law to do it. But if this country needs a law, and it appears that we do need a law after 75 years because other parties still haven't done it, we need a law. But then this is not the law. This is, like I said, a reservation rescheduling bill. This is dependent on on delimitation, which is dependent on the next census. We haven't got the 21 census yet. When is the next census going to come? After that, you're going to have delimitation. Have you seen what delimitation will throw up? It will increase Kerala by 0%, Tamil Nadu by 26%, Andhra by 30%, and it will increase Rajasthan by 100%. UP and MP by 79%, Bihar by close to 90%. Do you think the southern states are going to accept this lying down? That they have been
So you're saying the bill has been pushed forward. Effectively, you're saying it's been implemented. It's been passed, but the implementation could take years. That's your concern. Am I correct?
Implementation could take absolutely, and the implementation is dependent on delimitation. The current delimitation, based on population numbers, awards those states that have not been effectively be able to check their population, and disincentivizes those states that have actually done a good job of doing what they should have done. So under this situation, we are sitting on a powder keg. Come delimitation, please watch, mark my words, this is not going to be easy. Delimitation, where the northern states are sort of, in a disbalanced manner, increase their proportion representation in parliament at the expense of the southern states, is not going to be easy to implement.
Let me ask you therefore,
and delimitation is not going to be easy,
okay.
And hence to put hence to link the women's reservation to delimitation merely means that this is a legally mandated procrastination, a legally mandated delay. Nothing more. If you want to do it, put your money where your mouth is. Do it now based on the voters list.
Let me therefore ask you one final question before I go back to my panel, because the fact is, Mahua Moitra, do you believe this has therefore been done with 2024 in mind? Narendra Modi ji, Amit Shah ji will go to the people and say, "Humne mahilaon ko arakshan diya. Vote for us." Women will vote for them.
Of course, today for the first time I saw the Prime Minister usually comes into the house, speaks and leaves. Today he was sitting there for close to 3 hours while voting was going on. I think it's the longest he's ever spent in the Lok Sabha. Why was he doing this? Because when he will go out, the media will see him and the media will all say, wow, this Prime Minister, to get his women's reservation bill that is so close to his heart, sat in the house. Exactly.
But he's passed it.
Women's reservation,
He's passed it.
It's a jumla. What has he passed? Has he passed a women's reservation bill? Is it going to be implemented in 24? Is it even going to be implemented in 29?
Okay.
It's like the NRC and the CAA. Have they implemented it? They got the votes in Bengal. The Hindu votes in Bengal based on this CAA, NRC has to have even the guidelines.
Okay, I think I get your point.
It's a complete election jumla for them to go out and thumb their chest.
Okay, so you're saying it's an election. So you're applauding and supporting the women's reservation bill, but you're questioning the manner in which it is being linked to delimitation and therefore saying it's an election jumla. Okay, Mahua Moitra.
If you really wanted to do it, you could have done it. You're not doing it.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining me. I want to go back therefore to Shweta Shalini, because you're getting it from all sides, ma'am. Every speaker on this program from the other parties is raising the question of delimitation. If you were serious about women's reservation, why link it to an uncertain process like delimitation that could take years? It could take a decade before we will have women's reservation. Why should I then applaud anything that happened today? If the Prime Minister and the Home Minister were serious, they could have said what Supriya Shrineth is saying, implement it in 2024. Forget OBCs, but implement it.
Rajdeep, I can hear you and all the other people on your panel talk the same thing, like mandir wahi banayenge but date nahi batayenge. There was a time that everybody said, oh, I can give it to you in writing. The 370 clause is never going to be abolished. But here, hail today, we have mandir date coming by very, very close in January. And Article 370, which is gone and finished.
Give me a women reservation date. Give me the date when I can pop the bubbly and celebrate.
Home Minister has already given the date.
No, he has not given the date. He has said he hopes.
He has said that in 2029 we hope to have to see it implemented, and we are very sure that we are going to be getting it implemented. And as far as Supriya ji is concerned, I want to tell her, ये ठग्गू के लड्डू नहीं है, ये शादी के लड्डू हैं. जो खाएगा वो भी पछताएगा, जो नहीं खाएगा वो भी पछताएगा. And I really want to ask her if she knows who the two people in the parliament are who did not support her. Considering that they are also gungo about OBC, quota within the quota, were there these two people from her party who not vote for this bill?
Can I please come in?
Yeah, I'll give you a final word, Supriya Shrineth. Today, I've decided
Can I please make a
the women are going to take over. We are going to hear more from you. Go ahead.
I just have something to say. She talked about Amit Shah ji hopes the bill will be a reality in 2029. I hope that one day Mr. Modi and your government will stop lying, because achhe din, 15 lakh in every account, you know, doubling farmers' income, $5 trillion economy, a roof on every head, the 100 smart cities. These were tall promises that you made. And where are those promises? Is there a timeline? Is there a sunset clause to any of those promises? No. And which is why I say the Women's Reservation Bill is a carrot that they have dangled. Ek jumla inhone diya hai desh ki aadhi abadi ko. They will wait for another 16 years before it becomes a reality. Too much water had flown under the bridge. This could have been historic. This could have been done with immediate effect. Putting caveat and riders has only made half the country's population wait for more time, and shame on you for doing that. You could have won this historic moment. You could have made this a reality for women, but you chose not to.
Why are you so unhappy,
and that tells you your real intention.
Why are you so unhappy, Supriya? Today is a day to celebrate. You and me
so
should
you cannot
celebrate.
do anything for women.
She wants
That's
you to
the
celebrate
reality.
together. Supriya ji, Shweta
I am
Shali
totally
Singh celebrate.
So agitated,
But I am just telling you and exposing
today is
your
a day to
hypocrisy.
celebrate. As women, we are going to see you in the parliament soon.
I am only exposing your hypocrisy, my dear.
Reena Gupta, do you want to celebrate?
Account mein,
Okay.
2 crore rozgar, so smart city. That's what this government is all about. Jumlas.
Okay, Reena Gupta, you want to celebrate today or not?
Rajdeep, I want to celebrate, but there is no reason to celebrate. It's a clear jumla, as we have all been saying, like all the other jumlas that they've been throwing at the country, Naukri, Rozgar, Mehengai, all of that. This is just another jumla. And Bharatiya Janata Party is the most anti-women party.
Okay.
They have Braj Bhushan Sharan Singh in their party still. So one actually does not expect them to do anything for the women of this country. But they should not think that we are fools. We are not fools.
Clearly,
we can see
Reena
through
ji,
what
you
you have
know
done
nothing
today.
of what has
We have
happened
seen
Okay.
what you have done
for the
today. You
women
have
of this
tried
I
to
will
fool
go
the
to
women of
Dolly.
this
Let me
country.
not blab
We
the
will not be
statistics. I
fooled.
have all over it, right from having your maiden
Okay.
name on your passport to actually
Arey,
running down on
rehne
Foxo
dijiye,
law. I
Shalini
think
ji,
I can
rehne
go
dijiye.
unlimited.
No,
I think Amit
madam, then this was not the
Party
purpose.
You can't match us on
Volumes down.
statistics.
Volumes down. The idea today was, in a way, to reflect on the bill's strengths and weaknesses. Certainly, the question mark over delimitation is there. Will that then lead to this bill simply being kicked forward like a lot of laws in this? But Dolly, I want to give you the final word, because it is impressive to have a young woman, Sarpanch from Bihar, on my program today. What's your message? Are you happy today, or are you also worried ki will you actually get women's reservation in parliament and assemblies?
Rajdeep, certainly I am happy about it because we've been waiting for this for last 27 years. At least this government has made it passed in Lok Sabha and hopefully tomorrow in Rajya Sabha, which none of the government was able to do. So we have to actually applaud this government at least for doing it. Yes, I completely understand that we have to wait for some time and that time is still uncertain. But yes, when I speak from someone who is sitting on in local governance and look forward to grow in politics, certainly I am very much hopeful about it.
Okay.
And
I hope to see all 4 of you in parliament one day. Supriya Shrinet, I'm sure you will be there sooner rather than later. Reena Gupta.
15 lakh Dolly Varmas are elected today because Rajiv Gandhi took the affirmative action on Panchayati Raj that he did.
Ma'am, that is
15 lakh Dolly Varmas, and that's what we should be proud about. That is what we need to work towards.
And Supriya
But
ji
this reservation-
will
this
come to the
reservation
parliament
was there.
2029
Okay.
because today in the special parliament Narendra Modi ji
Shalini, please
passed
don't
that
shout.
bill. Thank
Whatever
you.
your name is, Shweta.
Okay,
Shalini,
ma'am,
please don't shout.
that's it.
You
On
just
that
have
note,
to ensure
let's, Rajiv Gandhi in 1989 did bring in what is a landmark legislation which gave the likes of Dolly a chance to be sarpanches. All credit to that. And if Prime Minister Modi acts on what he's done, ensures delimitation within a time frame, at least latest by 29, there must be a commitment. He too will have passed a landmark legislation. Now, talking of landmarks, I want to turn for a moment to another debate that took place in Parliament. Today was a rich day in Parliament. You had the Women's Reservation Bill being debated in the Lok Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, there was an excellent debate. At least some of the debaters were really first rate when it came to Chandrayaan. Among them was Jairam Ramesh. I would urge you to look at his speech on YouTube to simply understand the history of India's space research. Because, as he rightly said, space research is a symbol of continuity from Jawaharlal Nehru to Narendra Modi. Listen to Jairam Ramesh's excellent speech today.
In July of 1979, our first SLV launch failed. Dr. Kalam was in tears. So Dr. Satish Dhawan said, I am your leader. I will take responsibility for the failure. You sit at the back. That is leadership. In August of 1980, the SLV-3 succeeded. Dr. Dhawan said to Kalam, Kalam, you take credit for this. I will sit at the back. This is leadership. Leadership is not taking credit when things are going good and run away when the things are going bad. Leadership is when you have the courage to take the responsibility for things that are going wrong as much as you take credit when things are going right. So this is the milestones of a successful journey, sir. I would like to urge all of us to please look at our space program fundamentally as an instrument of development and not as an instrument of muscular nationalism.
Honorable Prime Minister stood next to Professor Sivan, the scientist, during the launch of Chandrayaan-2, which in the last minute, unfortunately, broke all our hearts and disappointed all of them as much as the scientific community when it just couldn't land. Standing next to him, who had tears in his eyes, Mr. Sivan had tears in his eyes, Prime Minister had said, last night, when he stood with him, I understood your frame of mind. The look in your eyes said a lot. That is why I did not stay here for long. We might not have reached the lunar surface as planned. You came as close as you could, stay steady and look ahead. We are full of confidence when it comes to our space program. The best is yet to come, unquote. These are not words of any muscular nationalism. These are truly the words of a Prime Minister who wants to stand next to his scientists, even at the time of disappointment, as much as the time of success. So to decry this and to say, oh, you stop your muscular nationalism, is a bit of a perversion, which I think somebody from Jairam Ramesh's experience, I wouldn't expect.
Good day in Parliament. Good to hear debates taking place in Parliament. That's what Parliament is meant for. Let's take a break. When we return, I'll bring you my good news today story. Let's give you a bit of good news when we return. You're watching the news today.
राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं, मान्यता का सवाल है। बादल पे पाँव है, या छूटा गाँव है।
I stand in support of the women's reservation bill.
Reservation को बहुत जरूरी है.
It is a historic day for the nation, for the women of the nation. तो भाई चल पड़ी अपनी ये नाव है.
Welcome back. I think we should end tonight with what I call my Get Real India segment, because politicians are often cut off from the reality on the ground. While we are celebrating G20, Chandrayaan and even women's reservation, here is a story that should tell you sometimes what's happening on the ground. Employees of Ranchi's ailing public sector unit, Heavy Engineering Corporation, are now selling momos and driving auto rickshaws to survive. They claim they haven't been paid salaries for the last 20 months and they are up in arms demanding immediate payment from the center of their salaries. Tonight, while we celebrate a good day in Parliament, we also need to recognize the reality on the ground. That's what I will continue to do on the news today. Think about it, stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Watch this report, Get Real India.
Kaushal Kishore is an employee in the ailing Ranchi-based public sector unit, the Heavy Engineering Corporation. Kishore and his wife are now forced to sell momos to make ends meet as he hasn't received the salary for the last 20 months. Many HEC employees face the same plight.
हमारे बहुत ऐसे साथी हैं जो छोटे छोटे दुकान का इडली है, मोमोज है, इस तरह का दुकान खोल के बैठे हुए हैं और मतलब अपने मजबूरी में काम कर रहे हैं।
बच्चे का भविष्य अधर में है, सभी स्कूलों से नाम काट दिया जा रहा है, उनका फीस नहीं दिया जा रहा है और तरह तरह की परेशानी आ रही है, जिससे हम लोग का तो भविष्य बेकार हो ही गया, हम लोगों के बाल बच्चों का भी भविष्य बेकार हो गया।
HEC employees who are up in arms against the centre for non-payment of salaries recently staged a dharna outside the Raj Bhavan in Ranchi.
HEC को बेचने का साजिश बंद करो।
60 साल की पुरानी मशीन से कोई आज के कंपटीशन कर सकता है? नहीं कर सकता है। हमारा 60 साल का पुरानी मशीन से आपको बता दें, 7 दिन पहले हमने भेजा आदित्य L1 के लिए सामान बना के भेजा है।
The employees claim that the PSU played a role in manufacturing key components of all 3 Chandrayaan missions. But the claim has been rejected by the government. The Press Information Bureau has clarified that the HEC was not entrusted with the manufacturing of any components for Chandrayaan. The government admitted that the HEC had supplied some components to ISRO from 2003 to 2010. With Lok Sabha and Jharkhand Assembly polls scheduled for next year, the plight of HEC employees has become a political issue in the state. With Satyajit Kumar in Ranchi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. watching India Today. Powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Powered by Volkswagen. Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com. हर family होगी insured.
Good evening. India has upped the ante on Canada's support to Khalistan, gangsters, extortionists and suspected terrorists. The National Investigation Agency has released a list of 43 individuals suspected to be linked to and associated with terrorists, gangsters or a network of extortionists operating from Canada. The NIA is now seeking information and details of their properties and assets in India. NIA officials say their properties in India may be attached pending investigations. The NIA list includes names and photographs of Lawrence Bishnoi, Jasdeep Singh, Kala Jatheri alias Sandeep, Virendra Pratap alias Kala Rana and Joginder Singh. Of course, it's a much longer list. It's a very comprehensive list. Much more on this big story and the latest in India-Canada tensions that's coming up. Charlotte Littlewood, head of the UK-India desk for International Centre for Sustainability, joins me on how the West is viewing Canada's claims. We'll have lots more on the broadcast. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. History made in Lok Sabha. Women's Reservation Bill passed by overwhelming majority. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says historic legislation will boost women empowerment.
प्रश्न है कि संसद संख्या 37 को स्वीकृत किया जाए. जो इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें. मेरे विचार में निर्णय ना वालों के पक्ष में, ना वालों के पक्ष में संसद 37.
Clamour for OBC women's reservation grows as Congress and other opposition parties demand OBC reservation in the women's quota bill. Amit Shah calls it vote bank politics, says it's the BJP that gave the nation an OBC prime minister and the largest number of OBC ministers. But no clarity on timeline when the reservation will be implemented. Government sources say law can come into effect by 2029. Delimitation will take South Indian states into consideration. Karnataka moves Supreme Court to overturn Kaveri water release demand to Tamil Nadu, says the Kaveri reservoir levels are at a low, cannot release more water. And I want to focus a little on the list of 43 terror and gang war accused and suspects living and operating from Canada. The National Investigation Agency has appealed to general public to share details including list of properties, assets, businesses, any information leading to more knowledge of how these gangsters and extortionists operate in India and properties owned by these gangsters and Khalistan terror sympathizers and supporters. The NIA has issued a WhatsApp number so that this information can be shared with the investigators. The list has names like Arshdeep Dalla, Lakbir Singh Landa, Goldie Brar, Lawrence Bishnoi, Anmol Bishnoi, and you're seeing faces, and these are pictures that have been released by the National Investigation Agency. Also, Anmol Bishnoi, Jagdeep Singh alias Jaggu Bhagwanpuri. We'll talk about the NIA investigations and the claims that have been made by Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the reaction in Canada and across the world. I quickly want to cut across to Charlotte Littlewood, head of UK India desk for International Centre for Sustainability.
Charlotte, India has issued an advisory today, and that advisory very carefully worded talks of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada. All Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. What do you make of this advisory issued by India?
I think there's a growing concern around attacks on temples that has been something that's building for a while, an anti-India bias that we're seeing actually across the West, but that really has been seeing a real issue in Canada. So I think this concern is something that has been present and growing. It could well be that what has happened in the last 48 hours actually will trigger more anti-India sentiment and more attacks on temples and potentially the High Commission. I think if this kind of statement has been issued, again, this is something that will be based on intelligence, and people should heed caution to statements like this, absolutely.
Okay, and what's the response to the words used by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he talks of credible allegations, not credible evidence, but credible allegations, and not direct link as revealed by investigations, but a potential link? What's the response to this?
I think for the Prime Minister to have made a statement like this at all, that there must be evidence that he is speaking from. But the fact that he chose to speak about this without being able to share that evidence, I think is incredibly naive. But I think what is a deeper issue here is the lack of communications and the lack of work between intelligence services, between Canada and India to be able to resolve these issues. You know, if this is true, and I absolutely would not be saying that it is without evidence, as Trudeau has, but if this is true, this speaks of a deeper issue of working together to resolve issues of threats of terrorism. You know, Najjar has had a red Interpol notice against him since 2016.
Yes.
And this really should mean that Najjar had been brought in and arrested and deported and dealt with by India. This is a known terrorist who is attached to prescribed organizations, not just in India, but also in the UK. Baba Khalsa is prescribed in the UK. And India, Canada itself has faced the worst terrorist attack on its soil at the hand of Khalistani extremists. So I really feel like Trudeau's statements and his positioning here is not only an insult to India's sovereignty, but it's also an insult to the victims, the Canadian citizens that died over Ireland. So I believe that we're not in a position to talk about whether there is evidence. I believe Trudeau was not in a position to share anything like this, and it was very naive and insulting, and is going to be deeply problematic going forwards for Canadian-Indian relations. And I really don't see how these wounds will heal in a timely manner at all. It's very concerning.
And information that's available seems to indicate that Justin Trudeau also reached out to Five Eyes partners. He's reached out at least to UK, to the US, to Australia. What's the response to the kind of word, his statement, and the response of the Five Eyes partners?
I think what we know as the general public at the moment is that Najjar 45 was gunned down by those that it appeared to be gang violence. We're not sure. They're unidentified individuals. There's a building discussion, and there has been for a while, by ISF, by the banned organization, Sikh Federation, that this has been an India inside job. So these are not trusted sources. So on a sort of public level, looking at this, if you look at the sources from which the accusations that this is an inside job come from, they're not sources that can be trusted, and they're sources that are linked with terrorism, banned and prescribed in some countries. So if that is the evidence that Trudeau is basing this accusation on, then that is problematic to a very high degree, and just shows how deeply Canada needs to reflect on its relationship and cooperation with terrorists. But as I said at the beginning of this interview, I don't have the evidence that intelligence services have. We have what we are able to read, and at present we read that it's a gang violence with unidentified perpetrators, and that the push for this to be an India inside job has come from those that we know have links to terrorism are banned and prescribed in certain places, and we shouldn't be listening and trusting their views.
For joining me here on India First, Charlotte Littlewood, many thanks. So let's try and make sense of some of Trudeau's rants and India's response and the road ahead, especially if in Canada, initial investigations seem to indicate that this was some kind of gang war. Joining me on India First is Shashikant, former Director General of the Punjab Police, someone who's worked on Khalistan terror and against terrorists in India and in Canada. Also with me is, with great respect, I want to introduce Gyani Bhuta Singh Ji. He's a highly respected Sikh religious teacher and preacher. Mr. Shashikant, what do you make of the NIA list? Will this put pressure on Khalistan supporters and sympathizers in Canada and perhaps even in India?
Yes, certainly it will. But talking of Canada and talking of Trudeau, also ultimately at last the cat is out of the bag. Now the entire world knows what Canada had been trying to hide, how he had been trying to encourage these terrorists, militants, drug smugglers, etc., and how they were trying to foment trouble in India. Now that it's for the entire world to see, and you're talking about reaction about these partner countries.
Yes.
The latest statement by Trudeau, you could see his facial expression when he said that he doesn't want to provoke India. It shows what he might have been told by these countries. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting point you make. There's a ज्ञानी बूटा सिंह जी, जस्टिन ट्रूडो ने जो बयान दिया निज्जर के ऊपर, आप उसे किस तरह से देखते हैं?
देखो, जस्टिन ट्रूडो ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਿਆਨ ਹੈਗਾ, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਬੂਤ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ
ਜੀ।
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਨੂੰ 3 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ
ਜੀ।
ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਨਿਕਸ ਹਾਦਸਾ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ 1985 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ
ਜੀ, ਕਨਿਸ਼ਕ,
ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 339 ਬੰਦੇ ਮਾਰੇ ਗਏ, ਉਹਨੂੰ 38 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਪੂਰੇ, 38
ਜੀ।
ਤੇ 38 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕਰ ਲਈ, ਕੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ 3 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਲਾ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਆ। ਦੂਜੀ ਗੱਲ, ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੈਕਗ੍ਰਾਉਂਡ ਹੈਗਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਬੈਕਗ੍ਰਾਉਂਡ ਕੀ ਆ, ਉਹਦੀ ਬੈਕਗ੍ਰਾਉਂਡ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਬੰਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ
ਜੀ,
ਉਹਦੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਪਾਸਪੋਰਟ ਵੀ ਜਾਲੀ ਹੈਗਾ
ਜੀ।
ਅਸਬੰਦੀ ਦੂਜਾ ਰਵੀ ਸ਼ਰਮਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਪਾਸਪੋਰਟ ਸੀਗਾ
ਜੀ।
ਜਦੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਗਿਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੋਂ ਉਹ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ, ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਟਾਈਗਰ ਫੋਰਸ ਬਣਾਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ
ਜੀ।
ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਗੋਲਡੀ ਬਰਾੜ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਤੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ। ਤੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਦੂਜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਡੱਲਾ
ਜੀ।
ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੁਖਵੀਰ ਲੰਡੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜੋੜ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਇਹ ਸਹੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਬੰਦੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੋਂ ਬੈਠੇ ਫਰੋਤੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਕਾਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ
ਜੀ,
ਤੇ ਉਹ ਫਰੋਤੀਆਂ ਕਈ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਲਈਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੋਂ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਕੇ। ਇਹ ਸ਼ਰੇਆਮ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਹ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਚਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਸੀ, ਉਹ ਅੱਤਵਾਦੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਹੈ,
ਉਹ ਆਤੰਕਵਾਦੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਵਧੀ ਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰ। Stay with us, sir, for a moment, and I want to bring in Mr. Shashikant into this conversation once again. Sir, as a former top cop, what do you make of Justin Trudeau's statement? He's the Prime Minister of a country. He's supposed to have information about people like Nijjar. Gyani Bhuta Singh ji says वो आतंकवादी बंदा है, extortionists के साथ रह रहा है. I mean, he's with extortionists. He's a terrorist. He's running a Khalistan movement. He's apparently traveled to Pakistan. What do you make of Justin Trudeau's statement, sir?
Well, sir, Mr. Trudeau is running a minority government. He doesn't have enough support in the parliament there. He is seeking outside support, not a coalition, but certain groups, certain political party, which is giving outside support. The moment that party withdraws his support, his government is gonna fall flat on the ground, number one. And secondly, have you seen the recent summer polls which were conducted there in Canada? It clearly shows that Trudeau's popularity and chances of getting re-elected are declining fast. And probably it appears in that from that report that conservatives are gaining.
Okay.
So this is nothing but a desperate attempt to continue wound people, particularly Punjabi's diaspora, so that he continues getting their support and he can survive. He can survive. That's about all.
Okay.
And my opening sentence, like you said, was ultimately the cat is out of bag. Entire world knows it now. Thank you.
The cat is out of the bag. Justin Trudeau stands exposed. ज्ञानी बूटा सिंह जी, क्या जस्टिन ट्रूडो के बयान के बाद खालिस्तान का जो समर्थन करते हैं, जो उनके साथ है, उनको और बढ़ावा मिलेगा कनाडा में, और क्या हिंदुस्तानियों की जान और खतरे में पड़ जाएगी, और भारत में क्या होगा, पंजाब में क्या होगा?
देखो, ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ इंडिया की बात करते हैं ना, इंडिया में गैंगस्टरवाद कितना है ये आपको पता है
जी।
वही हालात कनाडा में हो जाएंगे जे ट्रूडो उस गैंगस्टर की या खालिस्तानियों की बात करता है। नंबर 2, जे ट्रूडो इतना ही विश्वास करते हैं खालिस्तानियों के ऊपर या गैंगस्टर के ऊपर, फिर कनाडा में 2 स्टेटें दे दे उसको खालिस्तान बनाने के लिए। ट्रूडो 2 स्टेटें कनाडा में दे दे, बात बन जाएगी। किसी के कहने की बात नहीं है, मैं आपको जी सीधी सीधी बात बताता हूं, थोड़ा जा गौर से सुनिए।
हाँ जी सर।
जस्टिन ट्रूडो ने जो बयान दिया है वो कदों दिया है, कब दिया है
जी?
जदों निज्जर दी मौत हो जाती है उसको 3 महीने बाद में देते हैं
जी।
3 महीने हो गए जब मौत हुई थी, उस वक्त कौन बयान दिया, उस वक्त कौन सा स्टेटमेंट दी है उसकी? अब क्यों दी, अब क्या प्रॉब्लम आई
जी? और आपका क्या मानना है, क्या प्रॉब्लम आई? लेकिन इस पर भी हम चर्चा करेंगे। मिस्टर शशिकांत, इज जस्टिन ट्रूडो एक्चुअली प्लेइंग विद फायर, शील्डिंग टेररिस्ट, शील्डिंग गैंगस्टर्स ऑन हिज सॉइल? इट्स क्वाइट लाइक पाकिस्तान that had been warned that if you keep snakes in your backyard, one day they'll bite you. Is that a real fear in Canada, sir?
You're absolutely right, sir. What I fear, what I can foresee is the increasing trouble, tensions, and God forbid maybe violence in Canada. These ethnic things are very bad. It is such a fire. It's not easy. One shouldn't play with ethnic this kind of fire. And Justice Mr. Trudeau is trying to increase his own troubles. Things. That's why I said he's trying to bend backwards to woo a certain group which has been giving outside support to his political party without realizing what he is heading for. And I have got friends in Canada and some relatives in Canada, and they all say that there's increasing sense of insecurity amongst Indians. And Indians, when I say it's all Sikhs as well as other Punjabis also, I'm talking about entire diaspora.
Sir.
I don't say, and it's not possible, and it's a wrong notion that the entire diaspora is supporting Khalistan. No way. It is just a small section. It just happens that they have got money, they've got muscle power, they've got big mouths, and they ensure that their voices travels out and it's everybody hears that. They are just trying to scare people, and Canada, this particular party, Trudeau, everybody, I think they are on decline. They are in for very, very tough times. That's what my guess is. Thank you.
Fair enough. ज्ञानी बूटा सिंह जी, जो लोग निज्जर को आप कह रहे हैं वो एक आतंकवादी प्रवृत्ति का आदमी है, गैंगस्टर्स के साथ रह रहा था, लेकिन जो लोग ये कह रहे हैं कि नहीं गलत हुआ, वो उनको आप क्या कहना चाहोगे? जिस तरह के लोगों को जस्टिन ट्रूडो समर्थन कर रहे हैं, कभी लांडा हो गया, कभी दल्ला हो गया, कभी निज्जर हो गया, आप क्या कहना चाहोगे?
देखो, जो लोग कनाडा में रहते हैं
जी,
जे उनकी बात करेंगे, जे ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੇਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਸੀ। ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਵਿਵਸਥਾ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹੀ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਵਿਵਸਥਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਲਾਗੂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਇਹ ਲੋਕ ਉਹੀ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਲੋਕ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ
ਜੀ,
ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੇ % ਲੋਕ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ, ਕਿੰਨੇ % ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ? ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਨਹੀਂ। 2-4% ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਬਹੁਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗੇ। ਇਹ ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਇਕੱਠੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁੰਮਰਾਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੰਦੇ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੇਟੇ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਬਣਨ, ਇੰਜੀਨੀਅਰ ਬਣਨ, ਉੱਥੇ ਇਹ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਨਪੜ੍ਹ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਅਨਪੜ੍ਹ ਯੂਥ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਬਗਲਾ ਕੇ ਕਹਿ ਲਈਏ ਗੁੰਮਰਾਹ ਕਰਕੇ ਡਾਲਰ ਦਾ ਲਾਲਚ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਝੰਡੇ ਚੜਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ। ਜਾਣੀ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁੰਮਰਾਹ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਸ ਰਸਤੇ ਤੇ ਤੋਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ घातक होएगा।
ये बहुत बड़ी बात आप कह रहे हो और बहुत बड़ी चिंता की बात है। The coming weeks and months will be very dangerous for people who are living in Canada, given Justin Trudeau's support to these Khalistani elements. It's very dangerous, Mr. Shashikant, and perhaps that is why this advisory, politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada, that is why Government of India is issuing this advisory. But I want to understand from you, sir, all that Justin Trudeau has said, is this evidence or are these allegations, and will this stand scrutiny in any court of law, whether Canada or India?
I presume that Mr. Trudeau is a literate person. I presume that because the kind of language he has used, and the lady from London who was speaking about it, she also said there's all guesswork, that it's possible, not possible. And here I'd like to ask one question through your channel. Put this question to Mr. Trudeau. Does he have documents to prove that this Niger guy was a Canadian national? He had reached there and he was trying to obtain his nationality. He had married a girl and that was rejected. Application was rejected. He had again tried. It was rejected.
Yes.
And how come he can say that he was a Canadian citizen? Will he give the proof?
In fact, the minister has issued a statement first saying that citizenship was given in 2015 and then retracted and said that citizenship was given apparently in 2007. And it just goes on to show perhaps how deep is the penetration of these Khalistani elements. But Mr. Shashikant and Gyani ji for joining me here on this India First special, many thanks. It's a very dangerous time for Indians in Canada, especially those, as this government advisory also cautions, those who are against the anti-India agenda that's being peddled in Canada, and sadly with the tacit approval of the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. We will track this story for justice very closely. That is all I have for you on India First this evening. Coming up next is Abha Bakaya with Business Today.
The gloves are off. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Monday announced in Parliament Indian agents could be behind the killing of Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Khalistani terrorist wanted in India.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
We've been clear. Canada has expelled an Indian diplomat over what it calls the involvement of a foreign government in its internal affairs. Within hours of Canada's provocation, New Delhi retaliated by expelling a senior Canadian diplomat.
External Affairs Minister. Sir, you meet the... You got... External Affairs Minister.
India has called Canada's accusations absurd and politically motivated to shift the focus from Khalistani terrorists and extremists who are being allowed a free run there.
Phrase which came to my mind was actually a Hindi phrase, which was "Ulta chor kotwal ko dante." I mean, if anybody has a complaint, we have a complaint about Canada. You know, what I said earlier, the space that they're giving to Khalistanis and to violent extremists. So, I was very perplexed by what I heard.
Nijar, whom India had declared a wanted terrorist, was gunned down on June 18th in Surrey. The NIA had issued an arrest warrant for Nijar, accusing him of carrying out terrorist attacks in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had taken up the issue of Khalistani extremists getting a voice in Canada in his bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau in Delhi on the sidelines of G20. Trudeau claims he'd discussed Nijar's killing with the Indian Prime Minister. Canada had recently suspended negotiations for a free trade agreement with India. With the latest accusations, the already sour diplomatic relations between the two countries have hit a new low. Bureau Report, India Today.
Not the placebo of legislatively mandated procrastination. To the government and the ruling party, I say this: give us this day our equal rights. We hold up half the sky. Give us at least a third of our earth. Mamata Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress have already walked the talk. We don't need to go on record to show this country that we support this bill. We have already sent more MPs than what this bill even envisions. It is you, this government, this ruling dispensation that needs to go on record. You need to support us, not the other way around. You need to send more than 33% MPs to this parliament. When this government wanted to protect cows, and I support the move, make no mistake, you did not wait to count the number of cows. You did not wait to see whether the cow was a Jersey or a Gir or a Sahiwal. You just went and built the cow shelters. Are we women any less that we have to wait while you count numbers and you draw lines? We don't need any more vandans. We don't need any more vandanas. Thank you very much. What we need is direct action. Honorable Prime Minister, this is your moment to really show us all कि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है. Implement the reservation bill immediately based on today's voters list. Send 33% women to parliament. Send 33% women to parliament in 2024 from the BJP the way our party has done. Support us unreservedly. In conclusion, I can only echo the poet Rehana Ruhi's words. दिल के बहलाने का सामान ना समझा जाए, हमको अब इतना भी आसान ना समझा जाए. हम भी लोगों की तरह जीने का हक मांगते हैं, इसको बगावत का ऐलान ना समझा जाए. Thank you very much.
अगर इनकी मंशा होती तो 2021 में इन्होंने जाति आधारित जनगणना प्रारंभ कराया होता. इसलिए कि इस देश की मांग है, इस देश की आवश्यकता है कि जाति आधारित जनगणना आप कराएं. और इस सदन में मांग होती रही, आप नहीं कराए, इसलिए कि आपको कराना नहीं. आप गरीबों को, अति पिछड़ों को प्रति न्याय करने में आपका विश्वास नहीं है, आपका भरोसा नहीं है, इसलिए आपने जनगणना नहीं कराया. और अगर आपने शुरू करा होता, अब तक तो जनगणना खत्म हो गया होता और आज लागू हो गया होता ये महिला आरक्षण बिल. आज इसकी जरूरत नहीं होती, लेकिन आपकी मंशा नहीं है. आप 334A जो आपने प्रावधान किया है वो अनिश्चित काल तक चलता रहेगा और 2024 का भारी जुमलेबाजी करके महिलाओं को छलने का काम करेंगे. लेकिन महिलाएं, इस देश की जनता आपकी जान गई है, आप भारी जुमलेबाज हैं. आपके किसी जुमले पर उसको भरोसा नहीं है, उसको विश्वास नहीं है.
different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political back.
she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold, and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today. Welcome, you're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. It's a wipeout Wednesday on D Street as heavyweights like HDFC Bank and Reliance drag down indices. 2.3 lakh crore rupees wiped out as Sensex and Nifty fall more than 1%. All sectors in the red. HDFC Bank plunges nearly 4% as first financial report of the merged entity highlights several concerns. Investors also spooked by a stock downgrade by Nomura and Kotak Institutional Equities. Ola Electric to drive into D Street, set to hit the capital markets. Reports say the Bhavish Agarwal-owned company will file the prospectus to raise $700 million by October end. Policymakers face a tough challenge as crude oil hits a 10-month high. Business Today TV speaks to experts and tells you what its economic and political impact is likely to be. Business Today TV looks at the impact the diplomatic standoff between India and Canada could have on trade. Will the more than 5 lakh Indian students studying in Canada also suffer? Mark Zuckerberg reveals his big plans to monetize WhatsApp, allows use of other payment methods, launches verified services for businesses, and a new way for businesses to engage with customers on the messaging platform. The possibility of trade talks between India and Canada restarting anytime soon is looking bleak. Top government officials had confirmed to Business Today TV last week that trade concern had been overtaken by political differences between the countries. BTTV looks at what the impact of the latest diplomatic kerfuffle could be on business relations.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi played the perfect host, but the chill in the Indo-Canada ties could not be hidden by the warmth of Indian hospitality. Canada had, after all, just a couple of months ago, fired the first shot by calling off talks on a free trade agreement talks with India. And earlier Tuesday, India woke up to the news of the Canadian Prime Minister alleging role of Indian authorities in the killing of a Khalistani separatist in Canada. This was followed by a tit-for-tat expulsions of high-ranking diplomats. Most, however, agree that the diplomatic standoff is unlikely to affect trade relations between the two countries much. Canada is not even among the top 25 trade partners of India. Even Bangladesh is higher on the list. However, for Canada, India was the 10th largest trading partner in 2022. Bilateral trade between India and Canada jumped to $8.16 billion in 2022-23 after a couple of years of COVID-induced slowdown. India's exports of $4.1 billion to Canada comprised mainly pharmaceuticals, gems and jewelry, textiles and machinery, while imports included pulses, timber, pulp and paper and mining products. What analysts are concerned about is the huge investments Canadian pension funds have made in India. Many feel that continued tensions between the two countries could hurt these investments. The largest pension fund of them all is the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, which had investments of $15 billion as on 31st March this year. This includes a 2.7% stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank. It also owns shares in around 70 other publicly traded companies in India. Another big fund is the Quebec Workers' Pension Fund, which has about $6 billion invested in India. The Ontario Teachers Pension Fund has about $2.2 billion invested in Indian funds and securities. Most of these investments are in areas like infrastructure, renewable energy, technology, and financial services. Moreover, cumulative FDI from Canada since 2000 is about $4.07 billion. Over 600 Canadian companies have a presence in India, and over 1,000 companies are actively pursuing business in the Indian market. Importantly is the massive presence of Indian students in Canada, which may ensure normalcy in bilateral relations. In 2021, there were 319,000 Indian students in various Canadian colleges, contributing $4.9 billion to the country's economy. 226,000 more joined them last year. Indian students are the largest student group in Canada, accounting for 20% of all international students. There are also over 200 educational partnerships between Indian and Canadian institutions. Analysts also cite the cold relations between India and China. Skirmishes and standoffs at the LAC have failed to dilute trade relations between the two countries. Many, in fact, feel that trade and commerce could be the catalyst for a future revival in Indo-Canadian political relations. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Markets crashing today. Benchmarks dragged lower by heavyweights like HDFC Bank, Reliance Industries, ICICI Bank. Traders also booking profits ahead of tonight's outcome of the US Fed meeting on interest rates. The sell-off began early in trade but gained momentum in the latter half of the day, resulting in nearly 2.3 trillion rupees being wiped out in investor wealth. The Sensex was down 800 points today, settling at 66,800, and the Nifty was down 232 points at about 19,900. Few gainers on the list: Power Grid, Coal India, ONGC, Asian Paints, Sun Pharma holding out there, but the major laggards today: HDFC Bank, JSW Steel, Reliance, BPCL, and Ultratech Cement. Cuts were deep across the board. HDFC Bank clearly one of those today that was responsible for the knock in the stock markets. The counter had a gap down opening and fell more than 3.5%. The fall coming after the bank released financials of the merged entity for the first time, with a number of negative indicators. There has been a rise in bad debts, a fall in net interest margins, a fall in net worth, and operating ratios also are higher. Traders and investors were also spooked by a stock downgrade by Nomura and Kotak Institutional Equities.
Nomura has downgraded the stock. The target price has been slashed to 1,800. They fear four negative surprises from the recent con call. A sharp uptick in NPAs in the corporate loan book. They've highlighted higher cost to income due to accounting changes, NIM cuts of 25 basis points, net worth adjustments as well. Your thoughts on HDFC Bank currently, and what would your suggestion to investors be who've been waited with patience for a long time for this stock to now move?
So if you had patience with either HDFC Limited when it was there, or HDFC Bank, or HDFC AMC, or HDFC Life, I don't think you would have got disappointed, Sakshi. And it is a track record. And I love it when some foreigners come out with these kind of reports. It gives us an opportunity to, because, there is always a knee-jerk reaction in the market of such reports. So you get an opportunity to invest into these stocks at a decent valuation, because naturally, because of such reports, you will have pressure on the stock on that particular day or a following day. But let me just say this name, HDFC Bank, would have definitely found place in almost all chief investment officers, mutual fund, large cap list. I don't think you will see HDFC Bank missing out from any of those things. Secondly, with the post-merger, there was a lot of expectation in the market. This will happen, that will happen. But, synergies take time to play out. So you need to give it time. We maintain our positive stance, and I think 1950 to 1980, that is 1,950 to 1,980. That is our target on HDFC Bank, and we remain optimistic about our view. And I think if you do get an opportunity because of this report of some softness or otherwise in the market, then please look at opportunities like this to invest in HDFC Bank from a long-term point of view.
Million for you,
what would be a good buying range for HDFC Bank?
See, currently we are seeing that HDFC Bank has started trading well below the 200-day moving average line with this gap down opening. But yes, it has got a good support at around, multiple support at around 1500 levels. So if you get a chance to enter near, say, another 20-30 rupees lower, then it is an extraordinary good level to buy. I don't expect that 1500 would be taken off. From there, you could see a good rebound towards, say, 1600 levels. So one can keep a stop loss of 1500 and play for the higher side. But if one has to enter here, another 20-30 points, you can look lower.
A big week for IPOs. Here's a look at what happened in the primary market today. RR Cable made a decent listing with gains of 14%. The issue, priced at 1,035 rupees, opened at 1,180 rupees and rose to its high of 1,213 rupees. This was the first IPO to be listed on the new T+2 timeline. That's just 3 days from the close of the issue. The company raised 1,964 crore rupees from the IPO and will use the money to repay a part of its debt and for expansion plans. The Yatra online IPO was subscribed 161% as it closed today with a price bank of 135 to 142 rupees per share. The travel services company is raising 775 crore rupees. Anchor investors had already invested about 350 crore ahead of the IPO. Yatra, the company, intends to use the net proceeds to fund strategic investments and Sai Silk IPO open today has been subscribed just 7%. The price band for the IPO is 210 to 222 rupees per share, with the total fresh issuance worth 600 crore rupees. A similar amount is being offered under the OFS category. Crude oil prices could create some serious problems for policymakers in the coming days. Though prices dipped today, they're still at their 10-month high after hitting those levels on Tuesday. Both Saudi Arabia and Russia have announced production cuts, and OPEC has warned that demand will be much higher than supplies by the end of the year. Brent hit a high of $94.34 a barrel before moderating by around 60 cents in trade today. High prices could pose a challenge to the government ahead of assembly polls in the next few months. Prices have not been changed for the past 15 months, despite crude touching a low of $72 in the summer. Business Today TV managing editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke to a panel of experts on the rising prices and their impact. Listen in.
The current trend that we are seeing, and while there are certain experts who say that, well, it may not touch $100 to the barrel or more in the near future, there are others who say that that is going to be something that is inevitable. What's your own view about crude oil prices at this point of time, sir?
It is extremely difficult to estimate what the price is going to be, or forecast is anyway, largely because it is not something that is determined largely by market forces. It is determined by monopolist producers, and how they would behave, what would be their concerns will be, is difficult to predict. Though I do feel that it cannot go too far beyond 100, simply because in a slightly longer term perspective, the higher the price goes, the faster the penetration of electric vehicles would be into the systems, and the demand for oil will come down. So from a long-term point of view, they will lose money, but maybe in a short term, they might gain some gains. So I think they need to balance this. My guess is it will go up a little bit. The government should perhaps moderate inflation, but not completely, and do it partly.
Look at it from January to September and cancel out everything else. It is a good increase, almost above 15-16%. Mr. Taneja, how serious is this as a concern for the Indian economy?
Well, when crude oil prices go up, it's always a concern for big importers and, energy deficit economies like ours. But looking at your chart and looking at the reality, I mean, the recent rise in crude oil prices have actually nothing to do with either economic fundamentals or demand and supply fundamentals, which always play the most important role. Or I don't actually see even major geopolitical trigger, which again always, play a very important role in terms of which direction the prices are likely to go. So there is no demand supply issue. There is no geopolitical issue, but still the prices are going up. The question is that why? And the reason is simple. Is that, major producers like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Iraq, together with Russia and other friends, the so-called OPEC Plus, they have decided that oil prices should go up. And they say, mainly Saudi Arabia, they say they want higher oil prices because they need more money. They are building infrastructure. They are going for, massive, modernization of economy, etc. So therefore, they need more money. And Russia for other reasons, but Iraq and Kuwait, they have got similar reasons. Now, so what they have decided, they're using the instrument called, cutting production. So they're cutting production, creating anxiety in the market, a lot of tension in the market, and market is extremely sensitive to what, for instance, big producers like Saudi Arabia or Russia or Kuwait and Iraq, they do. And here, markets kind of senses that they want the prices up, and therefore the prices are going up. Now, this is a situation which has created a big problem, big challenge for economies like ours and also economies like China and, in fact, the global economy. And even for developed economies like the United States, whenever oil prices are high, economies even like the US, faces major challenge, or economies like ours even more, because our dependence on crude oil is very, very, very high. And at the same time, the fact of the matter is ours is still an oil economy, despite massive investments in solar and renewables and other sources of energy. But the fact remains we are still an oil economy.
Let's take a break. Later on the show, Mark Zuckerberg reveals his plans to make money out of WhatsApp.
India's most wanted list for Canada. Arshdeep Singh, alias Arsh Dalla, accused of masterminding the murder of a local Congress leader in Punjab's Moga on Monday. A listed terrorist belonging to the outlawed Khalistan Tiger Force, carrying out his operations from Canada. Originally from Tarn Taran in Punjab, Lakhbir Singh linked to the ISI in Punjab. Named in last year's rocket attack on Mohali's intelligence building. Gangster Goldie Brar, alias Satwinder Singh, accused of orchestrating the murder of singer Sidhu Moosewala from his den in Canada. At least 12 men wanted in connection with serious crimes in India, terrorism included, have found a safe sanctuary in Canada. Many of them carrying out their nefarious activities in India remotely and with impunity. With Arvind Ojha, Bureau Report, India Today.
कि ये संशोधन विधेयक वास्तव में महिलाओं को आरक्षण देने की साफ नीयत से नहीं लाया गया है, बल्कि आने वाली विधानसभाओं तथा लोकसभा के चुनावों में देश की भोली भाली महिलाओं को ये प्रलोभन देकर व उनकी आंखों में धूल झोंककर उनका वोट हासिल करने की नीयत से ही लाया गया है। और यदि ऐसा नहीं है तो फिर हमारी पार्टी सरकार से ये भी अनुरोध करती है कि सरकार इस विधेयक में से या तो इन दोनों प्रावधानों को निकाले।
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 37 and minimum 28 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 28 and minimum 26 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 31 and minimum 25 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 28 and minimum 21 degrees. Chennai, maximum 32 and minimum 27 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 31 and minimum 23 degrees.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. WhatsApp has said it will support credit card payments and services from rival digital payment providers in India. Addressing the Meta Conversations event in Mumbai, CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced a big e-commerce push using the ubiquitous app and revealed various measures for businesses.
Now, as you know, we've launched our own payment solution in Brazil and Singapore. And today, I am excited to announce that we are bringing this service to India. With payments in India, we're going to support other payment methods as well, including all UPI apps. This is going to make it even easier for people to pay Indian businesses within a WhatsApp chat using whatever method they prefer. I'm excited to announce some new features that I think will be game-changing for businesses and really useful for people. The first is something that we call WhatsApp Flows. This gives businesses the ability to create customized experiences right within chat threads. So for example, a bank can build a way for customers to book an appointment to open a new account. A food delivery service can build a way to place any order from any of their partner restaurants. Or an airline can build a way to check in for a flight and pick up a seat, all without having to leave the chat thread.
The newly launched Akasa Air is in crisis and claims that it might have to shut down. The airline has told the Delhi High Court all of this following the resignations of 43 pilots. The sudden resignation has forced the carrier to cancel 24 flights per day in September. The airline has said the pilots did not serve the mandatory notice period of 6 months to a year, which forced the cancellations. And they've reportedly joined Akasa's rival airlines. Akasa currently operates 120 flights a day. It expects to cancel 600 to 700 flights this month alone. Let's go across to Karishma Sadani for more on this. Karishma, clearly they're not going to let this rest. They've taken it to court, but operationally, how are they going to overcome this huge challenge?
Well, right, big turbulent times for the Indian aviation sector. In fact, it's now with the newcomer Akasa Air, which is actually been doing quite well with its expansion plans, but looks like the pilot shortage and pilot resignations have impacted the sentiments and emotions behind their operational strategy. In fact, officially they have also conveyed this, that though they are working on a strategic plan, the fact that competitive airlines are also hiring makes it difficult. But however, they have a fleet of around 30 aircrafts currently with enough pilots that will take over the operations. They've requested the DGCA and filed a plea at the Delhi High Court in order to allow a mandatory notice period of 6 months to 1 year for co-pilots and also the pilots, in order to retain them and not let them, of course, leave the operations. We are also picking up from sources that there has definitely been an internal letter that the management has written to the employees, guaranteeing them that they stay afloat despite these turbulent and tough, difficult times that the airline is going through. And especially the fact that they've received their international operator certificate definitely is a point of encouragement for them to get back in the game very soon.
Thanks, Karishma. Big relief in store for all investors and residents of Lavasa Smart City, with the Bombay High Court ruling that the city no longer requires renewal of its 2011 environmental clearance. Spread over 20,000 acres, Lavasa is the first privately developed city located in the Mulshi Valley of the Sahyadri ranges of the Western Ghats. It's now managed by the Darwin Platform group of companies.
For an ambitious development stuck in a legal quagmire for the past 12 years, the Bombay High Court ruling comes as a big relief. A recent order on Darwin Platform group of companies, Lavasa Smart City, ruled that renewal of environmental clearance would not be required if it has been obtained before by the companies. Lavasa Smart City got the clearance from Union Ministry of Environment and Forest in 2011. According to the company, the decision clears the path for the resurrection of India's pioneering Smart City initiative, a vision that is now set to be realized under the stewardship of Darwin Platform Infrastructure. The company added that the judgment clarified that once environmental clearance is obtained, it does not need to be renewed, alleviating a major pain point for the Lavasa Smart City project. In a precedent-setting decision, the Bombay High Court has categorically decreed that the environmental clearance for construction projects need not undergo the arduous process of renewal or revalidation at a later stage. Darwin Platform has sought approvals from the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest to erect the world's tallest statue of India's Prime Minister and net zero retail, holiday homes, entertainment, institutions and hospitality at Lavasa Smart City. Ajay Harinath Singh, the chairman of Darwin Platforms, has further announced that 500 acres in Lavasa will be used for 3 defence airports, one each for Army, Navy and Air Force defence enclaves with training and sports facilities. The promoters is also all set to construct 1,500 3-bedroom houses for IPS officers, an equal number for IAS officers and an additional 1,500 for IRS officers. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And that's all from us on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
अध्यक्ष महोदय, खुद मेरी जिंदगी का यह बहुत मार्मिक क्षण है। पहली दफा स्थानीय निकायों में स्त्री की भागीदारी तय करने वाला संविधान संशोधन मेरे जीवन साथी राजीव गांधी जी ही लाए थे। उन्होंने लाए थे जो राज्यसभा में 7 वोटों से गिर गया था। बाद में प्रधानमंत्री पीवी नरसिम्हा राव जी के नेतृत्व में कांग्रेस सरकार ने ही उसे पारित कराया। आज उसी का नतीजा है कि देश भर के स्थानीय निकायों के जरिए हमारे पास 15 लाख चुनी हुई महिला नेता है। राजीव गांधी जी का सपना अभी तक आधा ही पूरा हुआ है। इस बिल के पारित होने के साथ ही वह पूरा होगा। अध्यक्ष महोदय, कांग्रेस पार्टी इस बिल का समर्थन करती है। हमें इस बिल के पास होने से खुशी है।
1947 से लेकर 49 तक ये पूरा संविधान सभा चलता रहा। परसों से यही भाषण सुन रहे हैं सर। इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली से लेकर 1952 से लेकर आज तक चुनाव हुआ, कभी किसी ने राज्यसभा में रिजर्वेशन की बात नहीं की, विधान परिषद में बात नहीं की। आज भी राज्यसभा में शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल ट्राइब को रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। विधान परिषद में शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब को रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। आप कौन सी नई बात केवल पॉलिटिकल एंगल के लिए ले आते हैं? आपने जब नहीं किया, जब तक आज तक जो है भारत के संविधान में यह कहा गया कि राज्यसभा में कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा, विधान परिषद में कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा। और जब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी इस बिल को लाती है तो आप कहते हैं राज्यसभा में रिजर्वेशन नहीं है, विधान परिषद में रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। आप पंचायत में कहिए कि कोई ओबीसी को रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा, चाहे म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में कोई ओबीसी को रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा।
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
Hello, you're watching India Today and I'm Aishwarya Paliwal. Let's start the show with the headlines. History has been made in Lok Sabha. Women's Reservation Bill has been passed by an overwhelming majority. Prime Minister says that his historic legislation will now boost female empowerment.
प्रश्न ये कि संसद संख्या 37 को स्वीकृत किया जाए। जो इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय ना वालों के पक्ष में, ना वालों के पक्ष में संसद 37।
Clamour for OBC women quota grows as Congress and other opposition parties demand OBC reservation in women quota bill. Home Minister Amit Shah calls it vote bank politics, says it is BJP who delivered an OBC Prime Minister. No clear timeline on when the women's reservation bill will be implemented. Government sources claim law can come into effect latest by 2029. Delimitation will take Southern India states also into consideration. Karnataka moves Supreme Court to overturn Kaveri water release demand to Tamil Nadu, says Kaveri reservoir levels extremely low, cannot release more water. Today, history was scripted in the Indian Parliament. The landmark Women Reservation Bill has been passed with an overwhelming majority in Lok Sabha. Now, just before the vote, Congress MP Rahul Gandhi launched a scathing attack against the centre, demanding a caste censor immediately. Not just that, Rahul Gandhi also alleged the women quota bill is incomplete and reiterated the Congress's demand for OBC reservation within the quota. Tearing into Rahul Gandhi, Home Minister Amit Shah accused the Grand Old Party for using women empowerment as a political tool. Now, countering Rahul's 5% OBC government secretary's charge, Home Minister hit out and said that it is the BJP and not the Congress who made an OBC as the Prime Minister of the country.
I stand in support of the Women's Reservation Bill. There is one thing, in my view, that makes this bill incomplete. I would like to have seen OBC reservation included in this bill. I think it is very important that a large chunk of India's population, large chunk of India's women should have access to this reservation. सबसे पहले ये जो महिला का बिल है इसको आप पास कीजिए, आज पास कीजिए, ये जो आपके लागू कीजिए, और ये जो डिलिमिटेशन है जो आपने बोला है, और ये जो सेंसस है, इसकी कोई जरूरत नहीं है। 33% आप महिलाओं को सीधा दे दीजिए। ये आप बदलिए। ये जो लिस्ट है, ये ओबीसी समाज का अपमान है। 90 लोग हिंदुस्तान के सेक्रेटरी हैं, उनमें से 3 लोग ओबीसी समाज के हैं। 5% बजट को कंट्रोल करते हैं।
कुछ पार्टी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण एक पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा हो सकता है। कुछ पार्टियों के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण, माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा हो सकता है। कुछ पार्टियों के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण का नारा ये चुनाव जीतने का एक हथियार हो सकता है, परंतु मेरी पार्टी और मेरे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं है। फिर से सुनिए, मेरी पार्टी और मेरे नेता नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए महिला सशक्तिकरण राजनीतिक मुद्दा नहीं, मान्यता का सवाल है, मान्यता का सवाल। मान्यवर, 1/3 सीटों का रिजर्वेशन करना है तो वो सीटों कौन तय करेगा? ये जो कह रहे हैं क्यों नहीं कर देते, कौन करे? हम करें। और फिर वायनाड रिजर्व हो गया है तो आप क्या करोगे? हमको कहोगे कि भाई पॉलिटिकल कर दिया। ओवैसी साहब नहीं, अगर हैदराबाद रिजर्वेशन होगा, रिजर्व हो गया तो कहोगे कि भाई पॉलिटिकल रिजर्वेशन कर दिया। इसलिए ये बहुत अच्छा है कि ये डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन जो क्वासा जुडिशियल प्रोसीडिंग से चलता है, हर राज्य में जाकर, हर क्षेत्र में जाकर ओपन हियरिंग देकर ट्रांसपेरेंट पद्धति से इसका नीति निर्धारण करता है, वो डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन से इसका निर्धारण हो। परंतु सोशल मीडिया में कुछ लोग भूमिका बना रहे हैं कि भाई इस विधेयक को इसलिए समर्थन न करो कि इसमें डिलिमिटेशन कमीशन का है और अभी के चुनाव में नहीं होगा। कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं इसमें ओबीसी आरक्षण नहीं है, मुस्लिम आरक्षण नहीं, इसलिए समर्थन न करो। मैं अलग कहता हूं, अब समर्थन नहीं करोगे तो क्या जल्दी आरक्षण आ जाएगा? तो भी 29 के बाद आएगा। समर्थन कर दो, गारंटी हो गई। फिर जो सरकार आएगी उसमें जो बदलाव करेगी वो भी होगा। एक बार श्री गणेश तो करो, गणेश चतुर्थी के दिन ये संविधान संशोधन विधेयक आया, एक बार शुरुआत करनी चाहिए। ये जो वादा किया था वो मोदी जी ने पूरा किया है। और ये सारे जो ओबीसी का राग हड़पते हैं उनको मैं कहना चाहता हूं, आपकी पार्टियों ने कभी ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बनाया, भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने ओबीसी प्रधानमंत्री बनाया।
Now, earlier today, Sonia Gandhi-led Congress made a charge that while she supported the Women's Reservation Bill, she wants a caste census immediately. She also wants that the rollout of the bill should be immediate. She was countered by BJP MP Nishikant Dubey and Smriti Irani. Here are the highlights of the debate that took place inside the Lok Sabha today.
मैं नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम 2023 के समर्थन में खड़ी हुई।
Mamata Banerjee and the Trinamool Congress have already walk the talk. We don't need to go on record to show this country that we support this bill.
It is one of the very few bills I think most of us would agree on.
An intense debate.
इस राष्ट्र में अपने संगठन में पहली बार महिलाओं को आरक्षण देने वाली राजनीतिक पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी बनी।
Unless we have a delimitation and census, we are not going to get it. Is what I've understood from them. So then what is this special session? तो अभी नहीं करते तो दिसंबर में कर लेते।
Day 2 of the discussion on the Women's Reservation Bill or Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. Several opposition parties supported the proposed legislation, but they did so with conditions.
भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस की तरफ मैं नारी शक्ति बंधन अधिनियम 2023 के समर्थन में खड़ी हुई। धुएं से भरी हुई रसोई से लेकर रोशनी से जगमगाती हुई स्टेडियम तक भारत की स्त्री का सफर बहुत लंबा है। लेकिन आखिरकार उसने मंजिल को छू लिया है.
The chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party led the debate. She recalled her husband and then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi for initiating women reservation in local bodies.
खुद मेरी जिंदगी का यह बहुत मार्मिक क्षण है. पहली दफा स्थानीय निकायों में स्त्री की भागीदारी तय करने वाला संविधान संशोधन मेरे जीवन साथी राजीव गांधी जी ही लाए थे.
Subsequently, the Congress leader called for an immediate caste consensus and a sub-quota for women from underprivileged communities.
कास्ट सेंसस कराकर शेड्यूल ट्राइब, ओबीसीज की महिलाओं के आरक्षण की व्यवस्था की भी जाए. सरकार को इसे साकार करने के लिए भी जो कदम उठाने की जरूरत है वह उठाने ही चाहिए.
The TMC also supported women's reservation in legislative bodies. MP Mahua Moitra argued that the proposed 33% reservation must be implemented in 2024.
This is your moment to really show us all कि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है. Implement the reservation bill immediately based on today's voters list. Send 33% women to parliament. Send 33% women to parliament in 2024 from the BJP the way our party has done. Support us unreservedly.
The NCP's Supriya Sule advocated for an SC/ST OBC sub-quota for women.
That ये तो ST SC OBC का अभी मांग करेंगे. क्यों नहीं मांग करेंगे? सरकार से हम लोग ऑपोजिशन मांग नहीं करेगी तो कौन करेगा? And why not? This is a great golden opportunity on 303. दे दीजिए. Nothing wrong. So why is it that we are only asking for something? बड़ा दिल करके आप ST SC OBC, let's make a constitutional amendment. It's a special session.
The DMK alleged that the government has pushed the bill without building a wider consensus.
I'd like to know what consensus was built, what discussions were held. This bill was brought shrouded in secrecy.
Union Minister Smriti Irani accused the opposition parties of attempts to create a myth around sub-quotas and taking ownership of the reservation.
UPA जिसकी अध्यक्षा श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी हैं, उन्होंने कहा है No seat shall be reserved for women belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes in the 3rd general elections. 3B पढ़ें तो उन्होंने कहा, प्रस्ताव दिया, No seat shall be reserved for women in the 3rd general election.
The minister called upon MPs across the political spectrum to wholeheartedly support the bill.
Reduce your words to paper, to speech, but speak with action and support Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam.
Women bill. The political landscape simmers. The race to take ownership of the women's reservation bill and demand sub-quotas intensifies, highlighting the complex nature of this important legislative discussion.
Through the
Bureau Report, India Today.
Guarantee Act.
Now, India has put Canada on the notice for Justin Trudeau's support for Khalistani elements. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has issued a hard-hitting advisory on travel and stay in Canada, saying that in view of the growing anti-India activities and also all the crimes and the criminal violence that is taking place in Canada, all the Indian nationals must be extremely cautious. Trudeau, it now seems like, has reached out to the United States, to the United Kingdom and even Australia, and is now trying to drum up anti-India support for his tirade. It appears at the moment he is standing isolated and also extremely exposed.
The diplomatic war between India and Canada explodes. India has issued a hard-hitting advisory on hate crimes, urging Indian nationals and students in Canada to be cautious. The advisory says, and I quote, "In view of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada, all Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. Recently, threats have particularly targeted Indian diplomats and sections of the Indian community who oppose the anti-India agenda. Indian nationals are therefore advised to avoid traveling to regions and potential venues in Canada that have seen such incidents."
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing.
After his bombshell statement claiming credible allegations of a potential link between the killing of Canadian extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar and agents linked to India, Trudeau finds little support either at home or abroad. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese asked journalists to chill out.
Justin Trudeau is a friend of mine. He's a fine Prime Minister of Canada. I was pleased to engage with him at the G20. He has expressed his concerns about this on behalf of the Canadian government, and the Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong has also expressed concerns.
The US wanted Canada to complete the investigation and come up with credible evidence.
Frankly, I haven't seen any evidence to back up Justin Trudeau's allegations. That said, that doesn't mean evidence isn't there. However, the United States, through its silence, seems to imply that it is not on the same page as Ottawa.
And even after Justin Trudeau calling up the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak seeking support, UK insisted trade talks with India will continue. Visibly isolated, Justin Trudeau tried to furiously backpedal, saying his aim was not to provoke India.
We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them, and we want to work with the government of India to lay everything clear.
This after his shocking initial comment without investigations even being completed.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The opposition in Canada slammed Trudeau for making such charges without presenting credible evidence.
I think the Prime Minister needs to come clean with all the facts. We need to know all the evidence possible so that Canadians can make judgments on that. The Prime Minister hasn't provided any facts. He provided a statement, and I will just emphasize that he didn't tell me any more in private than he told Canadians in public, so we want to see more information.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi was briefed on the current Khalistan threat in Canada. India Today has also learned from its sources that the Khalistani elements in Canada are planning to protest in front of the Indian High Commission on September 25th. Keeping the situation in mind, Indian diplomats have been asked to stay alert. India has also shared a list of 9 Khalistan-backed terrorist organizations. The list has been shared with Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the US and the UK. As Canada continues to stand with Khalistan extremists, the already sour diplomatic relations between the two countries have hit a new low, with India issuing advisory for its citizens to exercise utmost caution in Canada. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Canadian Punjabi singer-rapper Shubh's India tour has been cancelled after facing extreme backlash over backing of Khalistanis. BookMyShow, in fact, has now initiated a complete refund of the ticket amount to all the consumers who had purchased the ticket for Shubh's still rolling show.
Canadian Punjabi singer Shubh faces backlash over backing Khalistanis. The Canadian Punjabi rapper's India tour has been cancelled. 26-year-old singer is accused of supporting Khalistani elements. His Mumbai performance was scheduled for September 23rd to 25th. His social media activity espousing separatism came back to haunt him. The singer had earlier shared a distorted map of India. Following the outrage, cricket stars Virat Kohli, KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya, who once followed Shubh for his rap on social media, unfollowed him.
Book My Show has initiated a complete refund of the ticket amount for all consumers who had purchased tickets for the Shubh's Still Rollin' show. Earlier, Indian company Boat had withdrawn its sponsorship. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Karnataka versus Tamil Nadu over the Kaveri river water sharing war has now escalated. The Karnataka government has now moved to Supreme Court to overturn Kaveri water release demand to the state of Tamil Nadu. They are saying that the water in the Kaveri reservoir is extremely low and cannot be released.
The Kaveri water war heats up between the southern states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. The Karnataka government on Wednesday filed a petition in the Supreme Court seeking a stay on the Kaveri Water Management Authority's order to release 5,000 cusecs of water to Tamil Nadu till September 27th. The Siddaramaiah government has claimed it cannot afford to release water for irrigating Tamil Nadu's crops when it did not have water left to fulfill the drinking water needs of Bengaluru and surrounding areas.
ಇವತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಂಕಷ್ಟದ ವರ್ಷ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಆಗಿದೆ. ನಮಗೆ ಜೂನ್ನಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ವಾಡಿಕೆ ಮಳೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬರಗಾಲ ಬೇರೆ ಕಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ. 195 ತಾಲೂಕುಗಳನ್ನು ಬರಪೀಡಿತ ತಾಲೂಕುಗಳು ಅಂತ ಘೋಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his deputy D.K. Shivakumar, who are in the national capital, held an all-party meeting with union ministers and MPs from the state.
All the parliament members of the state are meeting in Taj Mansingh. Here we have a deficiency of the problem since the entire new bhavan has not been constructed here. So we'll join together, we'll safeguard Karnataka interest at any point of time.
While the Karnataka BJP extended support to the state government's cause, it slammed Siddaramaiah for releasing water in the first place.
ಆದರೆ ಮೊದಲು ನೀರು ಹರಿಸಿ ಕಳೆದ ಸುಮಾರು 1.5 ತಿಂಗಳಿಂದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಮಯದಿಂದ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಇದೆ. ತಮಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ತಮ್ಮ ದೋಸ್ತಿ ಸಂಬಂಧ ನೀರನ್ನು ಹರಿಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಘಟಬಂಧನ ಸಂಬಂಧ ನೀರನ್ನು ಹರಿಸಿ ಈಗ ಜನ ವಿರೋಧ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ
The JDS also held the Siddaramaiah government accountable for the water crisis.
Government failed to convince the Water Management Board in this issue. We are facing, our farmers are facing, because this year severe drought is there.
Pro-Kannada groups staged protests in front of Karnataka film chambers in Bengaluru, questioning the silence of popular Kannada actors over the Kaveri issue. Meanwhile, farmers in Tamil Nadu held a rail roko protest in Thanjavur demanding Kaveri water. While protests and counter-protests continue, Karnataka's petition is expected to come up for hearing at the Supreme Court on Thursday. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, unfortunate news is coming from Ranchi. The employees of Ranchi's ailing public sector unit, Heavy Engineering Corporation, are now selling momos and also being forced to drive autos just to survive. They claim that they have not been paid salaries for the past 20 months. They are up in arms against the central government, demanding immediate payment of all their salaries.
Kaushal Kishore is an employee in the ailing Ranchi-based public sector unit, the Heavy Engineering Corporation. Kishore and his wife are now forced to sell momos to make ends meet as he hasn't received the salary for the last 20 months. Many HEC employees face the same plight.
हमारे बहुत ऐसे साथी हैं जो छोटे छोटे दुकान का इडली है, मोमोज है, इस तरह का दुकान खोल के बैठे हुए हैं और मतलब अपने मजबूरी में काम कर रहे हैं।
बच्चे का भविष्य अधर में है, सभी स्कूलों से नाम काट दिया जा रहा है, उनका फीस नहीं दिया जा रहा है और तरह तरह की परेशानी आ रही है, जिससे हम लोग का तो भविष्य बेकार हो ही गया, हम लोगों के बाल बच्चों का भी भविष्य बेकार हो गया है।
HEC employees who are up in arms against the centre for non-payment of salaries recently staged a dharna outside the Raj Bhavan in Ranchi.
HEC को बेचने का साजिश बंद करो।
60 साल की पुरानी मशीन से कोई आज के कंप्यूटर कर सकता है? नहीं कर सकता है। हमारा 60 साल का पुरानी मशीन से आपको बता दें, 7 दिन पहले हमने भेजा आदित्य L1 के लिए सामान बना के भेजा है।
The employees claim that the PSU played a role in manufacturing key components of all 3 Chandrayaan missions. But the claim has been rejected by the government. The Press Information Bureau has clarified that the HEC was not entrusted with the manufacturing of any components for Chandrayaan. The government admitted that the HEC had supplied some components to ISRO from 2003 to 2010. With Lok Sabha and Jharkhand Assembly polls scheduled for next year, the plight of HEC employees has become a political issue in the state. With Satyajit Kumar in Ranchi, Bureau Report, India Today.
It's time now for us to slip into a very quick break. More news coming up on the other side.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company. You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a B&P Group company.
Now, the Ambanis celebrated Ganesh Chaturthi in Mumbai. Top politicians and actors attended all the festivities. Take a look.
The joy and fervour of Ganesh Chaturthi have taken over the country, and the Ambani family too grandly welcome Bappa. The streets were decked up along with their residents. Mukesh Ambani and Neeta Ambani performed puja with their children and their daughter-in-laws by their side. Now the images and clips from the celebrations have been going viral ever since. The first night of this auspicious festival witnessed several A-listers who came and offered their prayers to Bappa at the Ambani residence. Shah Rukh Khan, along with his wife Gauri and children Suhana and Ibrahim, too went to offer their praise. The family looked royal in their ethnic best. From one Khan to another, Salman Khan also attended the Ambani Ganpati celebration and was accompanied by his niece Alize. Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh looked lovely in their matching Sabyasachi ensemble as they stepped out for Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations at the Ambanis. Vicky Kaushal, on the other hand, paid his visit on behalf of both him and Katrina. He was joined by Karan Johar. Alia Bhatt looked gorgeous in her flame red coloured sari complemented by a sequin mirror work blouse. To be part of the pious Ganpati celebration, Aishwarya Rai Bachchan and her daughter Radhya too stepped out in their matching ethnic kurta set. Same print but a different colour. Rekha and ace designer Manish Malhotra were among other celebrities to visit and seek blessings at the Ambani house. This year, the celebrations also saw several personalities from Southern cinema joining in the celebration, including Jawan filmmaker Atlee and his wife Priya. Rashmika Mandana too was all cheerful and looked beautiful in her simple yet elegant sari. Nayanthara and Vignesh Shivan also made their way to offer their prayers to Ganpati. All in all, the best from the film industry along with other big names joined in the Ambani Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations. What's more, this year's Ganpati at the Ambani household had a special purpose as the decorative items were reimagined through various Indian crafts. From Lucknow's Zardozi hand embroidery to Odisha's handmade paper mache. The entire space was transformed into a tapestry of Indian craft as well as clinching to idea of sustainability. Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
And with that, we are wrapping up this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching India Today. This is Aishwarya Paliwal signing off.
You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
जिस तरह से लोकतंत्र का गला घोटते हैं, वो मैं उदाहरण हूं। मैं गांव में पैदा हुआ, मेरे माँ पिताजी आज भी गांव में रहते हैं। आज जब मैं पार्लियामेंट के लिए चल रहा था, तो मेरी माँ आज एम्स देवघर में भर्ती है सर। उसने मुझे फोन किया कि बेटा यदि पार्टी तुमको मौका देती है तो आज इस बिल के बारे में जरूर बोलो। और इसीलिए कहा उसने कि जो महिला है सर, आज यदि सारे पुरुष यहाँ मौजूद हैं, 1947 से लेकर 49 तक ये पूरा संविधान सभा चलता रहा। परसों से यही भाषण सुन रहे हैं सर। इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली से लेकर 1952 से लेकर आज तक चुनाव हुआ, कभी किसी ने राज्यसभा में रिजर्वेशन की बात नहीं की, विधान परिषद में बात नहीं की। आज भी राज्यसभा में शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल ट्राइब को रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। विधान परिषद में शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब को रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। आप कौन सी नई बात केवल पॉलिटिकल एंगल के लिए ले आते हैं? आपने जब नहीं किया, जब तक आज तक जो है भारत के संविधान में यह कहा गया कि राज्यसभा में कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा, विधान परिषद में कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा। और जब माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी इस बिल को लाती है तो आप कहते हैं राज्यसभा में रिजर्वेशन नहीं है, विधान परिषद में रिजर्वेशन नहीं है। आप पंचायत में कहिए कि कोई ओबीसी को रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा, चाहे म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में कोई ओबीसी को रिजर्वेशन नहीं होगा।
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com. You are watching India Today, powered by Finest, Be Sustainable Change, a BNP Group company.
And I want to focus a little on the list of 43 terror and gang war accused and suspects living and operating from Canada. The National Investigation Agency has appealed to general public to share details including list of properties, assets, businesses, any information leading to more knowledge of how these gangsters and extortionists operate in India and properties owned by these gangsters and Khalistan terror sympathizers and supporters. The NIA has issued a WhatsApp number so that this information can be shared with the investigators. The list has names like Arshdeep Dalla, Lakbir Singh Landa, Goldie Brar, Lawrence Bishnoi, Anmol Bishnoi, and you're seeing faces, and these are pictures that have been released by the National Investigation Agency. Also, Anmol Bishnoi, Jagdeep Singh alias Jaggu Bhagwanpuri. We'll talk about the NIA investigations and the claims that have been made by Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the reaction in Canada and across the world. I quickly want to cut across to Charlotte Littlewood, head of UK India Desk for International Centre for Sustainability. Charlotte, India has issued an advisory today, and that advisory very carefully worded talks of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada. All Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. What do you make of this advisory issued by India?
I think there's a growing concern around attacks on temples that has been something that's building for a while, an anti-India bias that we're seeing actually across the West, but that really has been seeing a real issue in Canada. So I think this concern is something that has been present and growing. It could well be that what has happened in the last 48 hours actually will trigger more anti-India sentiment and more attacks on temples and potentially the High Commission. I think if this kind of statement has been issued, again, this is something that will be based on intelligence, and people should heed caution to statements like this, absolutely.
Okay, and what's the response to the words used by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he talks of credible allegations, not credible evidence, but credible allegations, and not direct link as revealed by investigations, but a potential link? What's the response to this?
I think for the Prime Minister to have made a statement like this at all, that there must be evidence that he is speaking from. But the fact that he chose to speak about this without being able to share that evidence, I think is incredibly naive. But I think what is a deeper issue here is the lack of communications and the lack of work between intelligence services, between Canada and India to be able to resolve these issues. You know, if this is true, and I absolutely would not be saying that it is without evidence, as Trudeau has, but if this is true, this speaks of a deeper issue of working together to resolve issues of threats of terrorism. You know, Najjar has had a red Interpol notice against him since 2016.
Yes.
And this really should mean that Najjar had been brought in and arrested and deported and dealt with by India. This is a known terrorist who is attached to prescribed organizations, not just in India, but also in the UK. Baba Khalsa is prescribed in the UK. And India, Canada itself has faced the worst terrorist attack on its soil at the hand of Khalistani extremists. So I really feel like Trudeau's statements and his positioning here is not only an insult to India's sovereignty, but it's also an insult to the victims, the Canadian citizens that died over Ireland. So I believe that we're not in a position to talk about whether there is evidence. I believe Trudeau was not in a position to share anything like this, and it was very naive and insulting, and is going to be deeply problematic going forwards for Canadian-Indian relations. And I really don't see how these wounds will heal in a timely manner at all. It's very concerning.
And information that's available seems to indicate that Justin Trudeau also reached out to Five Eyes partners. He's reached out at least to UK, to the US, to Australia. What's the response to the kind of word, his statement, and the response of the Five Eyes partners?
I think what we know as the general public at the moment is that Najjar 45 was gunned down by those that it appeared to be gang violence. We're not sure, they're unidentified individuals. There's a building discussion, and there has been for a while, by ISF, by the banned organization Sikh Federation, that this has been an India inside job. So these are not trusted sources. So on a sort of public level, looking at this, if you look at the sources from which the accusations that this is an inside job come from, they're not sources that can be trusted, and they're sources that are linked with terrorism, banned and prescribed in some countries. So if that is the evidence that Trudeau is basing this accusation on, then that is problematic to a very high degree, and just shows how deeply Canada needs to reflect on its relationship and cooperation with terrorists. But as I said at the beginning of this interview, I don't have the evidence that intelligence services have. We have what we are able to read, and at present we read that it's a gang violence with unidentified perpetrators, and that the push for this to be an India inside job has come from those that we know have links to terrorism, are banned and prescribed in certain places, and we shouldn't be listening and trusting their views.
For joining me here on India First, Charlotte Littlewood, many thanks. So let's try and make sense of some of Trudeau's rants and India's response and the road ahead, especially if in Canada, initial investigations seem to indicate that this was some kind of gang war. Joining me on India First is Shashikant, former Director General of the Punjab Police, someone who's worked on Khalistan terror and against terrorists in India and in Canada. Also with me is, with great respect, I want to introduce Gyani Bhuta Singh Ji. He's a highly respected Sikh religious teacher and preacher. Mr. Shashikant, what do you make of the NIA list? Will this put pressure on Khalistan supporters and sympathizers in Canada and perhaps even in India?
Yes, certainly it will. But talking of Canada and talking of Trudeau, also ultimately at last the cat is out of the bag. Now the entire world knows what Canada had been trying to hide, how he had been trying to encourage these terrorists, militants, drug smugglers, etc., and how they were trying to foment trouble in India. Now that it's for the entire world to see. And you were talking about reaction about this partner countries.
Yes.
The latest statement by Trudeau, you could see his facial expression when he said that he doesn't want to provoke India. It shows what he might have been told by these countries. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting point you make. There's Gyani Bhuta Singh Ji, Justin Trudeau ने जो बयान दिया